Hello, welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful.com. I'm Jeremy Lambert, joined by the great Stephen Jensen. Jensen, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just like everyone else, I'm sure, who's watching this show, just got finished watching that entire Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt, that entire Pat McAfee Vince McMahon interview, and that was the topic for today's show. So we're going to talk about that. I know a lot of people have thoughts on that. You just got done transcribing all this. That's why we're running a little bit late. But Jeremy's been working this entire time. So how you doing, man?
Brain dead. I'm probably going to say some dumb stuff on this show. Yeah, I apologize that we are late. It was supposed to be 4 because of the Vince interview, and then the Vince interview went way longer than I thought. It was supposed to be 4:15, and then it is now because I just spent the last 10 minutes or so trying to fight with Sean Ross Sapp. So yeah, that's why we're late. Sorry guys, I do have other responsibilities to the site, but we're here now. That's what matters, right, Stephen Jensen? And Jensen, we have so much to talk about. We have the Vince interview. We have Tony Khan buying ROH. Jeff Jarrett is about to be NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Cole Radrick, we spoke to Cole Radrick. That interview is going to air at the end of the show. I think that was the best interview we've done as well. Like, we have a tremendous. I can't even do a Tony Khan bit. I am so burned out. I can't even do like a Tony Khan bit right now. Cole's in the chat. My God. Assuming that's actually him. I can't even do my Tony Khan bit right now. My brain is just absolute mush. Let's start with this Vince McMahon interview, Stephen Jensen. I think many of us, based on the reports and stuff that were out there, thought that Vince was he's gonna announce that he's gonna wrestle. That he was gonna face Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. They were gonna shoot some type of an angle. That obviously was not the case. That didn't happen. Instead, he did offer McAfee a spot at WrestleMania. McAfee accepted. We don't know who he's gonna face. Vince is not wrestling. But what do you think? First off, let's start there. What do you think of Vince not actually wrestling?
I think it's probably a good idea that he isn't wrestling. I mean, if anyone could do it at his age, it'd be him. I mean, don't get me wrong, but like, I honestly, from the very start of all this chatter about all this stuff, I honestly didn't think we were going to get Vince and Pat. I immediately defaulted to thinking if Pat's wrestling, it'll be Austin Theory. So that's where I'm still at. I think that's what they probably will set up. But yeah, what about you? I mean, did you think that Vince was actually going to wrestle?
I kind of did, because one, there were the reports, and I mean, I know people like to dunk on all that stuff. I'm pretty sure Post Wrestling, John Pollock, who's very reputable,
Sure.
He put it out there. So like, I trusted Pollock on that. They got a lot of tickets to sell. We've talked about it. They got essentially 200,000 tickets to sell. They're trying to sell roughly 100,000 each night. They need something. Seeing Vince McMahon wrestle, I know he's old. I know it's not going to be a good match or anything. There is still a spectacle to Vince McMahon wrestling that people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy a ticket to see that. And it was obviously going to be smoke and mirrors. I don't know how much he was going to do, but we love this freak show fight shit, right, Jensen? Like you watch that stuff. Nate Robinson and Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, all these Triller fights.
You're not even mentioning the GOAT, Aaron Carter.
Yeah, Aaron Carter gets Lamar Odom.
Yeah, Aaron Carter and Lamar Odom was top tier entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, when you really think about it, you know, I know it was already a while ago now, but Bret Hart and Vince McMahon had a match at WrestleMania, and both guys weren't in like the best condition to be doing that. But like I don't necessarily think it was good, but you know, they were able to pull off something as far as a match. You know, and I'll say this: I've really, really enjoyed McAfee's wrestling on NXT. I thought his match with Adam Cole was like way better than it ever had any right to be. I thought his War Games match, he did great for considering his like very low, like what's a very, very little experience in wrestling. Yeah. But I mean, I just like, I get the whole spectacle of like Vince wrestling and all this stuff, but I'm also interested to see what other things they do or don't pull off for WrestleMania this year. Cause we're only like a month away. Right. So like, I mean, if Austin is wrestling, like, you probably want to let people know. If Cody is coming to the company, you probably want to let people know. If Vince McMahon is wrestling, you probably want to let people know. And I don't know if like any of those things will happen, which would be really interesting after all this talk about all this stuff.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to McAfee. Who do you think he faces Like where are you at on?
I think it's got to be Austin Theory. I think that's the one that makes the most sense. I think Austin Theory can be really jealous about how well Pat and Vince got along today, and he's like, I'm supposed to be like your favorite new person. I gotta take out this Pat McAfee dude in the ring and prove that you should praise me, not this guy, kind of thing.
I agree. It seems like it's going to be Austin Theory. They don't care about the brand split, so it'd be, Theory's on Raw. He just go to SmackDown. Be what it be. I'm a little disappointed it's not Vince. I mean, maybe that sounds harsh because people think like, oh, he's going to die in the ring and stuff. I don't think that's going to happen. The man is still. He said he works out till 3 a.m. All right, like this man he's going to outlive all of us. So I'm a little disappointed it's not Vince. I kind of got my hopes that, okay, we're going to get a Vince McMahon match. Here we go. And the spectacle of it all would have been something for me. And it's not. And again, I'm a little disappointed that it didn't happen.
Yeah, I get that. I think that a lot of people probably feel that way. But yeah, as far as the rest of it though, just wanted to throw this out there before I forgot to bring this up. I thought the most interesting thing about the McAfee and Vince interview today was that little bit that they talked about the company without his family around. Like that was the first time, I would imagine publicly, especially, he's talked about the idea of like, he's like, hey, I'm not thinking about it a whole lot, but I have thought about what this company would look like without anyone in my family running it and stuff like that. And he made it so clear throughout the whole interview. Some people will probably call it heartless, and I understand that when it comes to certain things that he said during it, especially about like all the talent that they've released being dead weight and all that stuff. But when you really think about it, it's like I just think that Vince is just kind of in this really, really unique spot right now where like I think he is. Oh, there's a lot of people out there that think there's no way in hell Vince McMahon would ever sell the WWE. And interviews like this make me think that it's way more likely that he is going to sell the company sometime in the near future. The way that he was just talking about, like, he didn't say anyone's name, but he was kind of heavily implying like, hey, and he kind of said this. He's like, hey, I have family that works here. And even if they're family, if it isn't what's best for business, then we're going to move on from those people. And it's always about the audience. That in his mind, it's all about the audience. Everything else is just business. And like, you immediately think Triple H and what's happening to him right now. And it's like, so I just want to throw that out there too. Like, not only was I interested for the potential of, Vince maybe wrestling again and the whole Pat McAfee potential match and all that stuff, but that was a part of the interview that really, really stuck out to me, was the whole he seems open to selling. Like, I feel like if he wasn't, he would be very, very short about it. But he kind of elaborated on like, my family might not be a part of this, long term. So
I didn't know what to expect from this interview when Sean put out the story that like it's gonna be an actual interview and then they might do some like work stuff. I was like, okay, well, here we go. He's gonna do an actual interview. Him mentioning. He said a lot of things. Like a lot of things. Him mentioning, yeah, my family might not be around. We've all heard the rumors of them selling, of it being a possibility. We've all thought that's what all these budget cuts and stuff are for. He mentioned to play off of him saying the family might not be around. He said when the company went public, it became easier for him because he didn't have to put his heart into a lot of these decisions. Right. It became a business for him. And he was talking about like releases, and it made him sound very heartless when he's like, because sometimes you think like, oh, they got a family. This person has a relative who has cancer and stuff. He's like, no, we just care about the stockholders. He confirmed a lot of what we kind of already thought and what we kind of already say a lot of times is like, they don't care about like the wrestlers and stuff. What they care about is that bottom line and making sure the stockholders are happy when it comes to making these decisions. And again, we've all thought it, we've all said it. Vince really confirmed it with his comments here. He also had the comments of like the listen to the audience. If it doesn't work, I know, and I change course and everything. It's like, nah, that's probably bullshit. And when he talks about like collaborating with the wrestlers of like, if they present me with an idea and I present them with an idea and they say no, they don't like it, present me with something that's better, I'll change course and everything. Like, it's collaboration, it's this and this and this. Like, that's probably bullshit too. There was a lot to unpack in this interview, and we could probably do a full hour on just like everything he said and everything there is to unpack. But I think I'm with you. The most interesting comments were him saying he kind of can see the family not being involved. And the other comment that you touched on was where he's like, I probably expect more from my family and like they let me down. And it's like, oh yeah, we don't know who that's a shot at, but like based on who's involved and who's not involved, we kind of get who that's a shot at. But it does seem like at some point he would be content with sort of selling. I don't think that's anytime soon though. And I still think he is going to be involved to some extent, because the other part that he really said is like, this isn't work. Like I'm still having fun. I still love everything I do. And, to me, like, this isn't work. I love being behind the scenes. I still get an adrenaline rush when it comes to shows and everything. So those comments have me believe like, yeah, maybe at some point down the line in the next 5 years or so, he sells, but it ain't close to being sold right now. It won't happen within the next year or two, like a lot of people have sort of speculated.
Well, the thing is too, I mean, I relate a lot of this to like the UFC sale years back, where just because Vince sells a company doesn't mean he wouldn't necessarily still be the one in charge of pretty much everything still. Right. It's just he would get paid a lot of money, and then there's kind of like an exit plan for, after a certain amount of years. Because I always figured that if Vince sold the company, then Triple H would kind of be the Dana White in that scenario, where Dana stayed on with the UFC to be the president of the company and got paid a lot of money because he also had ownership in the company when it sold. So for Vince, I could see something similar to that too, where he's like, I can get $10 billion. It's a hypothetical number or whatever. UFC sold for $4 billion. But say Vince is like, I can get $5 billion, $10 billion or whatever dollars, and I still get a yearly salary and I'm still involved, but technically I just don't own it anymore. But like, I'm still pretty much in charge of everything. Like, but then again, he would have to answer to more people, but he's already doing that, as you said, with the stockholders. Like, he's already kind of at their mercy when it comes to a lot of decisions, and he's taken emotion completely out of it, like you said. So I don't know, just something to think about. I'll also say this, and I tweeted this as well. This was the realest I have ever seen Vince McMahon in my life. Sure, there were certain things where he kind of was like towing the company line with some of his answers and stuff. Sure. This wasn't a perfect, like, made Vince McMahon look like an angel for a full 2 hours interview, but this was the closest I feel like I've ever gotten to actually getting to know who the actual real human being Vince McMahon is. I've seen plenty of his interviews. He doesn't do many of them, but I've seen plenty of them over the history of, the last, 30 years I've been alive. And this was the first time where he just kind of felt similar to Brock on the McAfee show. Like, just felt like he was hanging out with other dudes who were interested in like knowing what he was talking about. He was talking very lax when it came to a lot of stuff, and like felt like he was given some real answers, some answers that he might regret saying, if I'm being completely honest, because but it was nice to see, even if not everything he said was perfect, right? There's a value there, in my opinion, just to get some real answers from a guy who just seems so, as Pat McAfee was saying, so robotic, so alien-like, just so unrelatable. And then to hear him kind of be relatable for close to 2 hours was like, wow, like this guy talks about the WWE like this isn't work to him. Like, he almost gets offended when you say it's work. He's like, this isn't work. Like, I run my favorite thing in the world. He's there every day because he wants to be there every day. In all honesty, people, I mean, I have my own views, right, on the Saudi business and that kind of stuff. Like, I don't like that they do business with them, but at the same time, like, it's just one of those things where, like, I do have more of a respect for Vince McMahon in general after the interview, because I'm like, okay, like, he was very transparent with a lot of stuff that he hasn't been transparent about before, in my opinion. And whether you agree with him or you don't with a lot of this stuff, like, at least he was being real for some of it. You know what I mean? Like, it was cool to see him be closer to a real person than I feel like we've ever seen before.
I think he was able to be comfortable in large part because it was Pat McAfee. JJ kind of mentioned it. He's being interviewed by a company man, not an outside journalist. And that was a big part of it, right? Yeah. Like, McAfee, like he mentioned AEW, he mentioned Tony Khan buying ROH. He brought up Saudi and everything. He was never going to press him on this stuff. Like, He brought it up. He kind of mentioned it. Vince gave an answer. Whether you were happy with the answer or not, that's your call to make. But like once he gave his answer, McAfee was not going to press like, oh, well, Saudi, they did this, and this. Why didn't you continue your relationship? Like, hey, let's talk more about AEW. Like, they're taking all these people. They're getting all these big reactions. They're doing these ratings and everything. He wasn't going to be pressed on that stuff, right? It was going to be a kind of a one and done line of question. McAfee, he is a company guy. He is a fan. He was just happy and thrilled that Vince McMahon was there. And he was and look, I'm not saying I would have done any better if I'm in McAfee's position, especially if I work for the company. He came across like a fan, and that's completely fine. He was fanboying when he was there. Again, that's fine. I didn't expect anything else. I'm with you in that, like what Vince said, he did give some real and honest answers. Did I buy that all of them? Absolutely not. But it did kind of humanize Vince McMahon with that in the answers that he gives, because he doesn't do a lot of these interviews. Even when you see him on TV nowadays, like he looks like with all the makeup and stuff, he looks very weird. His cadence is, I don't know what's going on with him on television. He was very relaxed. Angel says it like it was just conversational. And that's really what it was. Like he was just there to kind of, shoot the shit with everybody. And that's fine. That's what I expected. I think I got more than I expected based on how long the interview was and based on everything he said, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on everything you're saying. And on top of that, you're mentioning Pat McAfee being a fan during this. And this is something I think needs to be stressed. And this is also something that I don't want people to take as me. This is not a dig on Pat McAfee at all, but this is just the truth. He did that interview from the perspective of a WWE fan that probably doesn't watch really anything outside of the WWE when it comes to pro wrestling. And the reason I bring that up is because I see a lot of people already on Twitter that are like, why wasn't he bringing up Cody? Why wasn't he bringing up this? He probably doesn't even pay attention to that stuff, if I'm being completely honest. Like, he might have no idea that Cody Rhodes is even like a big star in wrestling, or that he's this free agent. McAfee.
No, I think McAfee knows, because McAfee did, when Cody was free the other week, like he did mention, I guess Cody's coming to AEW, like that'll move the needle and everything, because he had the little Twitter war with Cody as well.
Well, in that
I think McAfee's plugged in.
In that case, though, he was most likely, I don't know for sure, but he was probably told not to bring that up if they are going to bring him into the company.
Like I think they're, yeah.
Because otherwise it's the elephant in the room. Like, why wouldn't you ask that question if Vince is sitting right in front of you? That's the number one question people want an answer to in all of wrestling right now.
I think it's some, hey, don't bring it up. I do think it's just some of like, I'm not sure McAfee's audience totally cares about that. Like you mentioned McAfee's audience being kind of more casual and stuff. Like, they're NFL fans. The majority of his audience are sort of NFL fans who enjoy his personality. Obviously, they know him from WWE and SmackDown and stuff, but I don't think most of the audience like really cares. I just think they didn't want hard-hitting questions. They just wanted, hey, let's just tell stories. We're just telling stories out here. Like that's what they wanted, and I think that's what they got. I don't think McAfee was ever going to ask any type of. He asked sort of hard-hitting stuff, and Vince gave the answers he gave. If Cody Rhodes was coming in, I don't think Vince was going to give a real answer anyway, unless he was going to break that news. But it was pretty much what I expected it to be. But McAfee definitely knows about Cody, because he's joked about it and everything. I don't think Vince knew that McAfee had wrestled before. Honestly, I don't think that was a thing, because Vince made it seem like first match, big stage, like, haven't seen you before. I don't think Vince knew that McAfee wrestled in NXT.
Well, that's hard on McAfee too, because he never talks about it. Like, he talks about it like he's never like, yeah, those matches I had in NXT or anything. Like, he doesn't even talk about it really, or he didn't bring it up at least during this either. Because he was like, man, I hope those WWE rings aren't as stiff as the ring I have here at the studio. And it's like, you've been in WWE rings multiple times, so like that's just a little confusing. I love Pat McAfee, by the way. Like, I didn't just listen today to his show. Actually, I'm a pretty regular listener. I really like Ty, one of the boys on his crew. He's a Packers fan. I'm a Vikings fan, so we do not get along NFL wise. But there's some of those guys on his show. Like, I think it'd be cool if they popped up at WrestleMania almost like his like crew or something. Because those guys deserve a lot of credit for the success of the show also, in my opinion. It's mainly McAfee, don't get me wrong, he's the guy that he's the face of it all, but they have a good squad of people there that are like, they're just entertaining to listen to. They just bro out for a few hours a day and just talk about sports and stuff. And there's a reason it's so successful. People like listening to that kind of stuff. And that's what was so cool about Vince being on this show and acting the way he was, because like you said, and like Joel said in the chat, like it was just conversation. It wasn't, and you're right with the hard hitting questions aspect. And then there's also, like I said, and like we both said, I mean, he works for the WWE. There's only so many things he can, he's not trying to press Vince. Like, why would he? That wouldn't make any sense for him. But that was the one elephant in the room. There were two elephants in the room that they didn't address. One was Cody Rhodes and the other was Steve Austin. He brought up Steve Austin, but it's like there's all these rumors in wrestling right now that Steve Austin's coming back for WrestleMania. And you're this big wrestling fan. Either he was told not to bring it up, or like, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Like, let me ask you, Jeremy. Granted, we don't work for the WWE, obviously, but like, if you had Vince McMahon in front of you and you were like, you can ask him 10 questions, like you would right now, but you wouldn't bring up either Austin or Cody once.
I mean, people think I work for the WWE with the takes and stuff. I probably look, if I'm asking Vince McMahon, I'm not sure if I'm talking to Vince McMahon. I'm probably not asking if I have 10 questions, because I want to know more about stuff that was like history and whatnot, and like why he did this and why he did that. Maybe I ask about Austin. Cody, you're the Cody fanboy. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You're the big Cody fan. I'm not that big on like, hey, let me know about Cody Rhodes. Yeah, Shane. Like, I would ask him more about Shane than I'd care about Cody.
That's a good point. That's a good point about Shane. But my fandom aside, I waved that flag for sure. Everyone knows that I'm a Cody fan, but like, is he not like still the biggest conversation piece pretty much in wrestling of like, where's he going? I mean, it's dying down a little bit each week that he doesn't show up somewhere, but I feel like when the Austin news broke that he might be wrestling, it broke around the same time as Cody, and like the Cody news like flooded over the Austin news, which was really eye-opening for me, because it's like Austin might be coming back for the first time in 20 years and everyone's talking about Cody Rhodes. Like, but
I think a large part of that is because the Cody thing was concrete of like, he's gone from AEW. Austin was just, hey, we've kind of reached out to see if maybe we could make it happen. Now, if and when Austin gets announced, then that'll probably be a much bigger deal than, hey, Austin might be coming back. They're trying to set something up. I think that's a big reason why Cody kind of took precedent over Austin. Like, I agree with you. The Cody thing was huge, was announced, but I do think it overshadowed Austin largely because it was concrete. Because if it was the rumor, because there were the rumors that Cody might be leaving, but just everyone just sort of dismissed it. And I think it's sort of similar with Austin. It's like, there's the rumor that he's coming back, but people are still like, all right, well, how come they haven't announced it then? We're a month out, it hasn't been announced. We've heard this before, one more match and stuff, it never happens. I think that's why the Cody stuff took precedent. I'm very fascinated by Cody and what's going to happen with him. Probably not something I'm asking Vince about. You, Jensen, that's all 10 of your questions is just about Cody Rhodes. It's like, when's Cody coming back? Why'd you do that to Stardust? Why'd you put a paper bag over his head? That's all you want to know about.
Hey, that's fair. And it is a fair point to bring up the kind of concrete versus speculation, because you're right. There was the speculation and the rumor that Cody was leaving weeks before it was official he was. And so I do agree with what you're saying about that. That said, to be honest, the only reason I brought any of this up was because I was like defending the stance of like McAfee not bringing this stuff up. But my point was more so like, as a wrestling fan, these are things that I was interested in. But at the same time, I don't think it was like, it would have been a good idea to be pressing him on anything, like you just said, especially because this guy's giving you his first interview in 15 years, like a live interview, just like a live sit down.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to respect that. Like, I mean, you're super fortunate that this guy's even doing this for you. So, and then you got to see him at work every week too.
He's going to be in your headset tomorrow night yelling about it. So Yes.
Shout out to Pat though. That was a very, very well done interview. Like I was very entertained by the whole thing.
It was good. It was very conversational. My expectations were very low as far as what was going to kind of come out of it and how much we were going to get from Vince. And again, I never expected Pat to press him on stuff. I never expected Pat to treat him like Bob Costas of like, let me know about this. Let me know about that. I very much expected Pat to just be like, hey, let's bullshit about wrestling. Because he's always going back to, he is a fan. Like even when he first started with WWE and talking about Vince being in his ear and everything, he's even said like, it's like hearing God in my ear. Like he just has so much respect for Vince McMahon, and he sees him he looks at him as he's being a fan. He sees him as a boss and everything. He is not independent investigative journalist Pat McAfee. So I got pretty much what I expected out of it, even more than I expected based on considering how long it was and how many headlines I have to write about it, this thing. But it was good. It was definitely good for the 3 hours that it lasted.
Was it 3 hours?
No, it was good, like hour and a half. Yeah. It was very long. Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I hope that Pat can continue to get these kind of interviews too. Like whether we get like the hard hitting questions or not, like it's just cool to see people. Like I can't say enough good things about that Brock interview with him a few weeks ago.
The Brock interview was tremendous.
Yeah, like that's, and once again, like this is not a dig at all. Like Pat McAfee is clearly like a massive WWE fan, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he works for the WWE, like, and he gets really excited about the WWE. So I like that his passion shines through when he does his interviews. I've said it before. I don't think he's a great wrestling commentator, but I think he's perfect for what the WWE needs on commentary. Like his enthusiasm is like, it's infectious, and he is enough of a fan. I mean, I'll never forget him talking years ago about when he got really, really drunk one night and like forgot that he had ordered a wrestling ring to his house.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and I was like, that's just cool as hell. Like whether like, another thing is too, to be a wrestling fan, it doesn't mean you have to be like I am, where like you're sitting around watching, independent wrestling for, your entire weekend and all week. And like, you're watching all this, like, it's okay to just be a wrestling fan that just loves the WWE, or just any company really. Like, so anyway, that's all to say. Congrats, Pat. Like, honestly, just congratulations just in general on getting that interview. Like, that's a huge, huge deal to get Vince to fly out to you, to sit down with you, to really just shoot the shit, have a real conversation, and then also to get offered a WrestleMania match, as this kind of all started with this conversation. Pat McAfee wrestling on WrestleMania. So, and I think he'll knock it out of the park, just like he did at War Games, just like he did against Adam Cole. Like, I'm a believer in Pat McAfee. Like, I think that he's just really, really good at the stuff he puts his mind to, and it's inspiring. So I'm very happy for the guy.
There's clearly a lot of respect for Pat McAfee all throughout the company. Cole has praised him a lot. The fact that Brock has been on the show, the fact that Vince has been on his show, there's a lot of respect for Pat McAfee, and it is cool to see because Pat is such a fan, and he does make it fun. I know you don't like him as a commentator; you're a hater, but he is.
I like him. I like listening to him on commentary, but it's like listening to Don West on commentary. I love Don West on TNA commentary, but like he wasn't like this like encyclopedia of wrestling knowledge, but it didn't have to be because the person next to him was. You know what I mean? Like Pat McAfee, as long as he's got a guy like Michael Cole with him, Pat McAfee is good to go. I just want to hear him marking out and getting up on the desk when Shinsuke is coming out and like just doing his thing and marking out, being a fan. Like he's something different. I like that he presents something different to the presentation of the WWE product.
I'm sure people will find fault in this Vince McMahon interview. Again, if your expectations were Pat's going to grill him on all the tough questions, it's Vince's first interview in 15 years. He's got to be asked about concussions and this release and that release. And, I don't even know what the questions would be. I'm not prepared. But like, he's got to ask about this, and this. Like, never expected any of that. Pat brought up things that I didn't think were going to get brought up. Vince gave the answers he gave. Pat was never going to press him about stuff. It was fun. It was harmless fun for 2 hours that it lasted. And if you thought this was going to be him and Costas all over again, it wasn't. I hope Vince does another interview with somebody who is going to be confrontational, because the other thing I took away from this was he's like, I like confrontation, makes you, how do you react in those little, in those moments? Like, I like that stuff. So give me Vince being interviewed by an actual journalist, and let's see how Vince reacts, and like do that kind of confrontation type of thing. I don't think we'll be seeing Vince doing interviews for a very long time, unless it is a setting like this. I know we're going to get the documentary at some point. That thing's been rumored for like 2 years now. I'm sure we'll see a different side of Vince on that, but enjoy this Vince McMahon interview, because I don't know when the next one's coming. And he doesn't do a lot of them. He had fun with this one. Bless him. It was entertaining. I don't want to say it was super informative. We didn't get maybe all the answers we were looking for, but it was entertaining.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't stress it enough. Him just seeming way more like a normal guy than I've ever seen before. And I was afraid.
Sort of normal. This man was like, he said it like, I'm just built different. Yeah. Like, I got 3 brains.
Well, you know what I mean? In comparison to what we've seen our whole lives of like him, just like on WWE TV, you mentioned this as well a few minutes ago. When you see him, he seems like this shell of himself, where he like seems like, he does seem like a robot who he seems like an older version of a robot that ate the old Vince McMahon and is like still kind of like the Vince from like the 80s and 90s, but you can't put your finger on what's different about him. But but this really made it, because I was afraid that's who Vince was. Like when I was seeing him on WWE TV, I'd be like, this really feels pretty close to what he probably is like in real life. Like, this is just sad. And then I see him today and I'm like, no, he's actually just working me on TV.
That was my biggest fear of like, you watch him on Monday and he's very just like stoic. He can't string 2 words together. And I came into this interview. I was like, well, it's not going to last long. He's not really going to say anything because he can't put words together at this point. So to see him the way he was, like, oh shit, like this is Vince, he's fine. Like, he really is going to outlive us all. Like, he's doing great. Like, great, tremendous, stupendous. Tremendous answer on that, by the way. It's like, it's branding. You don't use stupendous in everyday life, but now when everybody says it, if you ever do hear, it's like, oh fuck, WWE. That's what it is.
Yeah, I love Pat like explaining it too. He's like, you walking around doing the Billy strut in front of your fucking dinosaur, like, you know what I mean, thinking about this stuff, and Vince is like laughing. He's like joking around. Like, it was refreshing to see. It was really cool to see that.
If you haven't watched the Vince McMahon interview, you can go watch that. If you don't want to watch it, we'll be running articles for the next month on this thing, because the whole thing's been Jesus. The other WWE spotlight, that was your spotlight for the week. My spotlight, and we'll be brief on this because we're going to spend another 2 hours on Tony Khan. They're doing a winner-take-all match between Brock and Roman at WrestleMania. And then according to reports, they're just going to do the winner-take-all match, and then like the next night, they'll just get a divorce, I guess. They're gonna divorce the 2 championships. It happens, right? Kim Kardashian's marriage lasted about 2 minutes to Chris Humphries. You can get pretty quick divorce. Well, annulment. They're just gonna get it annulled. Like, it never happened. So get ready for WrestleMania, where Roman's gonna be holding up both titles, and then the Friday on SmackDown, the 2 titles get an annulment, and then 1 title will go back to Raw and live its happy life, live the single life,
Yeah. So where I've been seeing these conversations, how like in stone is this? Like, I honestly haven't been paying attention. Like, who's been saying? I know fans have been saying, but like, where does all this stem from? Where people are so sure that they're going to unify them and then ununify them?
I'm pretty sure it comes from the Observer and Micro Torch. Joel Pearl will probably know. I don't think Fightful actually ran this story because it wasn't like concrete. It was just a thing of like, hey, this is their plan and that's it. And so of course people are just going to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And some people are just gonna be like, oh, they're really stupid. Like, this is obviously going to be their plan. Obviously plans can change. Maybe they do unify the titles. Maybe it actually, it sticks. There you go. JJ says Meltzer said it on Observer. That's what I thought. I thought it came from Dave. So maybe it does stick. I don't know. It would certainly be a WWE thing where it doesn't stick. I've said it before. Like, I don't like having just 2 titles, especially if you're going to, like, hypothetically, let's say Roman wins and then somebody just beats Roman for the WWE title. He's like, who gives a shit about that belt? Like, I'm still the Universal Champion and everything. I didn't like when they did that with Becky when she got both belts, and then a month later she just dropped the one title, but she was still the Raw champion. I didn't really like that. I prefer, like, my preference is just having one belt. When the original brand split and they just had one belt, that's what I liked the most, and I would prefer it to go back to that. I don't think they're actually going to do that. And this is why I think they're just going to unify them and then split them again story picked up steam, because I think WWE does like having the 2 titles, and it would be a very WWE thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they don't do that. The funny thing is, like, if they did that, me and a lot of other people will go from, like, Vince seemed pretty down to earth on that McAfee interview to, like, Vince has lost his mind. What's he thinking doing something like this? I mean, but we don't have to go down this rabbit hole because it would take so long. We already have talked about this on previous episodes, but, you know, I want one world title. I want one mid-card title. I want one set of tag titles, you know, or maybe some multiple mid-card titles, depending on which titles they are and, like, how they're utilized. But, you know, women's titles, that kind of stuff, right? Like, you know, but one set of these. I want the brand split to end. I want all of this to end. I want the championships to matter again, because I feel like they haven't for a long time. Part of the reason is because there's too many of them. And it's hard to call yourself the world champion when there are multiple world champions in the same company. But that said, like, I'm just hoping that they do what I think is the right thing and they unify the belts at WrestleMania and they stay unified, especially if it's Roman. Because it's like, you've built it up now to the point where, like, okay, if Roman beats Brock, like, who is he? I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Who does he lose to eventually and all that stuff? But, like, this will make it feel a little different, a little more special, I feel like. Because, like, we've seen this great run from Roman already. But I think it kicks up to another notch if, like, he's the only world champion for the next, you know, 6 months or the next year heading into the next WrestleMania or something. Like, one world champion. And then whoever beats him, it means so much more because you beat the one real world champion in your company. You didn't, you know, and I hate to say it, but there was so many years in the WWE, especially for, like, the original brand split, where people would win the world heavyweight title, or depending on which title was on, the WWE title, they'd flip flop and stuff, but it always seemed like one of the titles meant more than the other most of the time. And it's just unfortunate because, you know, if you're a guy like Christian, for instance, who wins the world title, like, that's cool, but, like, people are still going to be like, well, but you're never the WWE champion. You know, it's like, well, I was. Well, kind of. You know, like, and I want there to be no doubt. Like, I want one real champion. And then on top of that, that also means the Intercontinental title or whatever US title, whatever you want to use, that elevates similar to how AEW uses the TNT title, where, like, there's a true secondary title that actually means something. And then that person could potentially become the world champion. You know, you're kind of prepping for that. So yeah, I guess to answer the question, though, I think it would be a really, really bad idea to unify the titles and then just ununify them, because I'm not saying they won't do that. They probably will do that. But you know, that's just going to leave a sour taste in the mouth of a lot of WWE fans, I think, because they're going to feel like they were lied to. Like, we bought WrestleMania, we watched the unification match, and now it didn't even matter because, like, the titles aren't together anymore. You know, you know, but this is also the same company that marketed the greatest match of all time before it happened. So, like, I mean,
they don't give a shit. Like, after the show is over, it's like, yeah, we bought WrestleMania and we saw the unification match, and the next night it doesn't matter. Great. We bought Hell in a Cell, and the next night we just got a free Hell in a Cell match. They don't care. They don't care about that stuff at all. Yeah, I could fully believe that they'll just do a unification match and then by the next week just ununify the titles, however they're going to do it. I think both networks want, like, a world champion on their show. I do think that is a big part of it. Obviously, right now, people are just going back and forth anyway. So whatever. I wish there was a little bit more between the networks, like synergy. I don't know if that's ever going to happen because now you're talking about overall networks, not just WWE. And I think that's still a big reason for the brand split, is because the networks like that, even though, again, guys are just going back and forth and it doesn't really matter. I would be fine with the 2 mid-card titles, like a mid-card title on each brand.
Sure.
But I've always liked one world title, one set of tag titles, one women's title. And then if you want to do a specialty title on each brand, like if one brand wants to be like a hardcore championship or something, put the 24/7 titles on Raw. And then the SmackDown could have like cruiserweights or something. I know they do NXT up next or whatever. I'm talking about when they actually had the depth to do all this stuff and the mind to do all this stuff. Nowadays, of course, they just announced Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin. Right? But this has nothing to do with unification titles. I'm just really agitated by this. Fucking stupid is this. On Thursday last week, they do McIntyre and Madcap on SmackDown, even though you just saw that at Elimination Chamber. But McIntyre and Madcap on SmackDown. And then like an hour before SmackDown, McIntyre and Corbin is now on SmackDown. And then 2 minutes before the match, it's McIntyre and Madcap again. And now we get McIntyre and Corbin at WrestleMania. This company as a wrestling company, which I guess they're an entertainment company, it just sucks. All right, so yes, here, Jensen, Roman Reigns, he's gonna hold up both titles. It's gonna be the big celebration. The fireworks are gonna go off. He's gonna do the double ones, like Louis Dangor, because he's both Usos. He's gonna hold up both titles. This cool thing. I wish I had a title. You have 2 titles, Jensen. Hold them both up. And then the next night, he's just gonna take the WWE title and be like, I don't want this piece of shit. I don't need this red belt. And then there you go. And then just throw down the red title, Jensen. Be like, fuck this title.
It's blue now, right? But
there you go. Whatever. He says, fuck this title.
Hold it upside down. Miz style.
Oh man. Watch WrestleMania, get excited for Roman and Brock, and then realize this 8-hour, 2-night stupendous event that you have watched doesn't mean a damn thing. All right? Have fun with WrestleMania, everybody. A month away. Let's get into the AEW spotlight. Tony Khan promised what?
I just, not that I even care to answer, but it's just funny because that all started with like wanting my opinion on Corbin versus McIntyre. Just went just straight into like WrestleMania is not worth watching. Let's just go and move on.
The Corbin and McIntyre's at WrestleMania. Who is paying to see? This is why they can't sell 200,000 tickets, because it's like, who's watching Baron Corbin against Drew McIntyre, the undefeated Happy Corbin, by the way, the undefeated Happy Corbin. Nobody's paying to watch that shit. All right.
I feel so bad for Drew McIntyre. Like, that dude was the COVID champ. Like, he was the dude who, like, throughout that whole period was like the most reliable, like put the company on his back, like having good matches with no fans there, and like looks the part and like all improved and like doing everything you would want out of a guy. You put this title on and give this big push. You beats Brock at WrestleMania, but nobody's there. And then when all the fans come back, like titles on Lashley. And granted, I like Lashley. It's not that I don't want Lashley to be the champion, but it's just funny when it's like, I feel bad for McIntyre. It's like, damn, they really gave you this really big push and really made you the man, but no one was there live to ever see it. And now you're in a position where it's you and Baron Corbin, or sorry, Happy Corbin. It's like, damn, dude, that's a fall. That's just a bummer for him. But then again, didn't Happy Corbin retired Kurt Angle? So I mean, there's some
they don't remember
there.
That shit. They don't remember any of that. McIntyre's a cool cat and kitten. He'll be okay. Be fine. He'll do a bunch of media, make it sound like the biggest match in the world, and that he's very excited because he knows Happy Corbin is going to step up. I want these guys to step up. That's terrible. I have no Scottish accent. It'll be fine. All right. Jensen, you don't watch the Madcap Moss, I assume.
No. You are incorrect. I actually think Madcap Moss might be the most talented of all these people we're talking about. This guy is like a freak athlete, like legitimately freak athlete. He looks good. I liked him in Raw Underground. I actually liked him as like the jobber he was on NXT.
I can mute you. I'm just going to mute you, Stephen Jensen.
I'm gonna unmute myself here.
I forgot you actually have access. And you sound like Paul Heyman, Madcap Moss. He's gonna figure it all out. What an athlete! He's gonna be great. He's telling jokes.
I know nothing about his gimmick. Nothing.
You want to hear one of his jokes? Stephen Jensen.
Sure.
You want to hear one of his jokes? You're from Georgia. I hear that Atlanta is the biggest city in Georgia. It's funny though. I didn't know they were basing that on weight. You get it? You get it, Stephen Jensen?
No, I get it.
Here's another one. Here's another one.
Who's writing these? Okay.
If Kofi started a Garth Brooks cover band, do you know what song he'd sing? Friends in No Places.
So he's not writing these jokes, I'm assuming.
I don't know who's writing these jokes. I don't know.
But my point is this. I watched Madcap Moss land on his head. Drew McIntyre gave him that reverse Alabama slam. And that man not only got up and kept going, he took like multiple pretty decent bumps, like for minutes.
Wrestled, I mean, like the next week.
Wrestled. Dude's tough. I'm gonna give him some credit here.
He's tough. All right, Jensen, you're a UFC fan. You remember BJ Penn against Diego Sanchez?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was a one-sided ass kicking.
Yeah.
Right? But everybody's like, oh, Diego Sanchez, so tough. What a tough guy. He got his ass kicked in that fight. All right. I'm glad Madcap Moss is a tough guy. He doesn't do anything for me as a professional wrestler. All right. That's great that he's tough. If the nicest thing you can say about a guy is that he's tough, that means he doesn't have any other good skills outside of getting his ass kicked.
Rest in peace, Raw Underground. That's all I'm saying.
We've been 45 minutes on this show, and we're telling Madcap Moss jokes.
Let's talk about Ring of Honor. Let's talk about something people actually care about. All right.
Tony Khan made his big announcement. He bought ROH after all the speculation, and buying ROH was one of them. I think the more leaning speculation was a partnership with ROH, and certainly the tape library was a thing. But he's outright bought Ring of Honor. I still think the big piece to this is the tape library. A lot of unanswered questions. Supercard of Honor is still on as of now. I don't know where they're going as far as television because I would assume it's off of Sinclair. I don't know where that lands. I don't know what it means for live events. I don't know what it means for the current. I mean, they don't have guys under contract. The reports out there, the speculation out there, the rumor and innuendo out there is that it's going to be more like a developmental for AEW. And we don't know the answers to these questions because Tony Khan has not told us the answers to these questions. I think a big part of this is just we got the tape library and, hey, I might as well just own everything because maybe he had to get everything just to get the tape library. And Tony Khan's such a lunatic that he's like, sure, I'll pay an extra $5 million more to get the entire company instead of just the tape library. But he's got ROH. What do you see Tony Khan doing with Ring of Honor, Stephen Jensen?
So first of all, I'm going to give a shout out to Denise Salcedo, Fightful Zone, who will be a part of Supercard of Honor. I thought that was really cool to see that announcement and the talent that they're stacking.
Spoiled that.
the talent that they're stacking for that, like, it gets me excited because they got guys like Ninja Mac and Alex Zane on the show and stuff. And now that Tony Khan owns this, that just makes it even more likely, in my opinion, that he's going to have eyes on more of the people that I really like on the indies, and they'll get worked into Ring of Honor, get worked into AEW and that kind of stuff. So I think it's really exciting from like a talent standpoint now for a lot of reasons. But I think the main key to it, it's one of those things, right? Like, why do they necessarily need Ring of Honor? They really don't, outside of the tape library. The reason being, their system, how they kind of scout talent and acquire talent and stuff, that doesn't change really at all, because the same people that we're talking about that are going to be in Ring of Honor for Supercard of Honor already are on shows like GCW and already all over the indies. And Tony was already pulling from that talent pool. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't necessarily need to own Ring of Honor to form his own developmental, because his own developmental is basically the independent scene and then some of the training setups that they have that kind of filter into AEW. You don't need that. And then you have, of course, like AEW Dark and Elevation and stuff like that, where you kind of use similar to like a farm system, kind of like just kind of getting people's toes wet in the company and getting fans, familiar with wrestlers and stuff that you might use down the line. But the tape library, like you said, That's a big one, I think, when it comes to a potential streaming deal that everyone keeps talking about, where if they can get, we'll just say HBO Max, because that's like the one that people keep bringing up. If AEW sells or gets a deal with HBO Max, where part of it I would hope would be like, you could, like, I would love the subscription service. Like, you pay for HBO Max and like you get the AEW pay-per-views and you get their tape library. Perfect scenario. That's what it would be for me. But regardless, like, even if it's just like a back catalog of just AEW stuff and it doesn't include the pay-per-views, I think that's extra incentive for HBO Max to want to get involved and for wrestling fans to want to subscribe, because they have that ROH library. And the reason that's important is because so many of the people that are super famous, like big time, massive names in wrestling now that are in AEW, a lot of them came from Ring of Honor. So now you can basically educate this new fan base that, like, you know, me and you were around to see, you know, Ring of Honor back in the early 2000s, and we followed these people's careers. But if you're a newer wrestling fan, like you're just now getting into Bryan Danielson or CM Punk or any of these kind of guys, Eddie Kingston, you can go back and you can look at like old Ring of Honor shows and be like, oh, now I have a way of like watching their early career, knowing more about where they came from before AEW, and it's all in one easy to watch place. So yeah, I think that's main to your point, Jeremy. I think, and I want to know if you agree, but I do think the main part of this was the tape library. And then he probably, like you said, there was probably just some sort of deal where it's like, maybe Ring of Honor didn't want to sell just the library. They want to sell the whole thing. And for someone like Tony Khan, it was easier for him just to buy the whole thing than like try to figure that all out. And I'd imagine he'll keep running Ring of Honor branded shows to some degree, but he doesn't necessarily have to, because they were already, like I said, there's a whole ecosystem already in place that feeds into AEW as is. So I think the tape library is the big thing. Yes.
Mark Lossberg says having the tape library and folding the promotion is the logical call, but there's no way he can do that after making that announcement so publicly. Yeah, I don't think he's folding the promotion at all. I just wonder how he's going to run Ring of Honor. Like, if there's no TV deal, are you just going to do like live events and then sort of just have AEW people pop up to give them extra work and stuff? Are you going to run storylines? Like Ring of Honor, we'll talk about here in a second. They used to run some really top-notch storylines, like the CM Punk Raven storyline, Summer of Punk and everything. Like, we've seen a lot of Ring of Honor influence in AEW. Like, they were known for doing that kind of stuff. It tailed off over the years, especially during the pandemic. Like, they tried, but no one was really watching that stuff. But like, is Tony Khan now going to be writing for 2 shows, essentially? Is he just going to run, again, sort of live events and just do matches for the sake of doing matches? That's where I wonder. Is he going to turn it over to somebody? Yeah, there's, William Regal is out there, Samoa Joe, if he wants to do it. I thought when Bryan Danielson, okay, let's talk about this. I thought you're pointing to yourself.
No. I'm pointing to the match.
Look, Tony, I know you're watching this show. Shoot me a DM. I'll run Ring of Honor for you. All right, Jensen and I will do it. We have no problem running Ring of Honor. Jensen, you watch enough indies. You'd be a great talent scout for all of this stuff. I can write some angles and stuff. I've booked enough TEW feds. We'll run Ring of Honor. All right, Tony, hit us up. Give us a call. I won't even need that much money to do it. You pay me more than Sean Ross Sapp pays me, then I'll write Ring of Honor television. I'll run Ring of Honor, Tony. I'll let you know how much Sean Ross Sapp pays me when you come in. Just make an offer over whatever Sean Ross Sapp pays me. Okay, Tony?
You can
DMs are open. You follow me, I follow you. DMs are open, Tony.
You can pay me in Dave and Buster's power cards, and I will run Ring of Honor. Okay?
Jensen's easy to work with here. He just needs power. Jensen will take some Dave and Buster's NFTs.
Yes.
Fine. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but
Let's
yeah,
I mean,
I think it's a long shot, but like I'm still not completely sold he's going back to the WWE. I'm still not completely sold on it. And my percentage keeps dropping of like how likely I think it is. Like at one point I was at like 80-90%. I thought he was going, and then that kind of dropped down to more like 50% when he wasn't on Raw 2 weeks ago. Then when he wasn't on Raw this week, that's dropping down more to like maybe 30-40%. Like every week that I don't see him, people can go, well, maybe he debuts at WrestleMania. Maybe, but if the goal is to put people in seats, you need to advertise he's going to be there.
Yes.
And you got like a month to do that now. And there's no real clear like path to him being on the show based on what I'm seeing on Raw. Sure, there's great wrestlers they can figure something out with, but it's hard for me to believe that he is like signed, sealed, delivered. Because if he was, I think he'd already been on the show. So
I think Seth Rollins is the clearest path if he's on Raw, especially if Owens is doing Austin or Booker T or JBL because they missed out on Austin, whoever it might be. I think Rollins might be the clearest path. If you're over on maybe Orton, just because they'll just be like, fuck it, it's Cody and Orton. Like, what else are we going to do? On SmackDown, I don't see anybody he's working over there. Like, he ain't coming in wrestling Sheamus. Drew McIntyre would have been possible, but, that's out the window now. So, yeah, Rollins would be the clearest path. But you're right. Like, there doesn't seem to be just a very clear-cut path for Cody. Unless it's McAfee. Maybe Cody's working McAfee. They worked an angle on Twitter when Cody said that, Pat's calling me up, hit me up for a job. Again, McAfee commented on Cody coming. He's like, fuck, great. Maybe it is Cody and McAfee. But I do agree that like the more time that passes, the more the less likely it seems. I'm not dropping all the way down to like 50, 40, 30 or anything. This ROH thing, I don't think Cody's going to run it. What a just... I don't even know the word for
5D chess.
5D chess. What a grift by Cody Rhodes if he just drops out of AEW and then just gets to have his own. He gets to have his own figure fed with ROH, and he gets to book this. Give me the fucking Codyverse, okay? Give me Cody. Let's go. Running his own federation, and give me the Codyverse. Bring in the Fiend. Bring in my guy Bray Wyatt. Give me Cody and the Fiend collaborating on some shit, making some movies in ROH. Cody wants to do his Mid-South 80s wrestling. The Fiend wants to do over-the-top big production nonsense. Give me all of that. All right? Let them run wild with ROH. They want to reimagine ROH. By the way, they've done a hell of a job saying we're going to reimagine ROH. And it's like, hey, we just sold the company. Here's how we're going to reimagine it. They don't reimagine ROH. Give me a Cody and Fiend mashup. You can't reimagine shit more than those two guys getting their heads together and working out something.
Well, and they have that link. Remember back in the day, Cody was Husky Harris's pro on NXT.
There you go.
So
there you go.
For everyone out there that's like, Stephen doesn't watch the WWE. Well, I've watched a lot of WWE to remember these kind of things. But yeah, it's when it comes to Cody with Ring of Honor, wouldn't that be wild if I'm not saying, I mean, this is as one of my favorite Minnesota Vikings podcasts says often. They're called the Purple Daily. Shout out to those guys over there. Shout out to Declan, especially. He's a big wrestling fan. I see him wearing wrestling stuff all the time. They do a thing called reckless speculation. And that's basically what this is. This is just reckless speculation.
Hell no. I got the scoops. Lance told me what's going on with this stuff. All right.
But what if, it really was something where the EVPs really they were kind of drifting apart a little bit. Cody's views didn't kind of align all the way with kind of where the Bucks and Kenny and TK wanted to take stuff. And they were like, you know what, Cody, you really do want to do more of this old school wrestling. If we just got Ring of Honor, you can just run it.
Tony Khan could not come to an agreement with Cody Rhodes on a contract extension or just could have picked up his option, couldn't come to some type of an agreement on this. So instead he's like, here's your own wrestling promotion, Cody. I need Sean Ross Sapp. What are you doing? I mean, I guess he gave me my own channel and stuff because he's like, I'm tired of you polluting up our channel. Like, here, just take your own channel. Buy me my own wrestling promotion, Sean Ross Sapp. If you really love me, like Tony Khan loves Cody Rhodes, buy me my own wrestling promotion. All right.
Hey, I mean, he kind of did that already. I mean, Cody, the Bucks, and Kenny, he started and bought AEW.
Yeah, but he took it away. Tony Khan was a dick. He took it away at the end of the year. He's like, you guys aren't doing a good enough job. Give me this back.
I mean, all I'm saying is I don't think that there is this gigantic rift between Tony and Cody. I really don't. I think maybe they're just not on the same page with everything, but at the same time, I don't want to sit here and be like, it's all a work. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat dude. But like, if anybody was going to pull something like this in modern day wrestling, it would be a lifelong wrestling mark and a lifelong wrestler born into the company, born into the business. Like, if you wanted to actually swerve fans for like the first time in decades, these are the guys to do it. So I'm just saying, reckless speculation.
Can we get you a tinfoil hat, Stephen Jensen?
I have some tinfoil in my kitchen. But I don't want to waste it on this hat. I might need it to cook.
I'm gonna buy a tinfoil hat for Lambs. He'll have one on the next.
Yeah, I know that guy. That guy's an asshole.
He sucks. He's horrible. But he might have more. He might have more on this. He might have more on Tony Khan buying Cody his own wrestling pro. I don't know if it's love.
If this is even true. So James Jones. I have no idea if this is true. He said, "Do you have any idea what the number is that it sold for?" Because like, if it like Cody could have bought it if it was that price.
The report I was linked up on a super chat. Ring of Honor estimated net worth of. I don't think that the report was like 20, 40 million. Yeah. See, Bill's Mafia says, I said he heard anywhere from 20 to 40 million. That seems to be, I think a couple other outlets kind of said that
20 to 40 million.
Yeah. It
That's
definitely wasn't
way higher than I expect. I know it wasn't. I know it wasn't $500,000. I'm just saying, like, I was thinking maybe in like a handful of millions. I didn't know that it was like 20 to 40.
Yeah, I don't know what it actually was. I don't know if we're ever gonna find out unless Tony just comes out and says it to correct these reports. But that is what some credible writers and journalists have said. I love that. Either Tony Khan loves Cody so much that he's like, here's your own promotion, or he just wanted Cody to stop annoying him so much with his Codyverse in AEW that he's like, here's your own promotion. Either way, what a great friend Tony Khan is. It's either a lot of love or a lot of annoyance, but bless Tony Khan for what he did with that. I had something else to say about this, and because based on what you were talking about, the with the library and stuff, HBO Max, they're just going to look at, now you've got 3 million hours of content with this ROH tape library. Sure, this looks a lot more attractive than your 3,000 hours of content with AEW Dark and everything. So that they're going to love that. If AEW goes to HBO Max, and I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point, pay-per-views got to be included for me, and I don't think they will be. No offense to, all HBO Max just acting as an archive for all of this stuff. I am not the person who sits around and just likes to watch old wrestling. Like sometimes I'll throw it on and it's fine. Like I'll throw on something on WWE Network. Maybe I'll watch WrestleMania season 13, episode 1 every now and again. But like, I don't like to just sit around and watch old shows. It'd be great for new fans. It'd be great for fans who haven't been there from the beginning. I've been there from the beginning. I've seen a lot of this stuff. I'm probably just not going to go back and rewatch a lot of it. I want to get full use out of it. I need the pay-per-views because that's the draw with WWE on Peacock for me. It's like, oh yeah, I'm paying $5 and I get all these pay-per-views for free.
Yeah, for sure. And also just when WCW sold, they sold for like 2.5-3 million. And now granted,
pennies.
And I know there was different circumstances and times have changed and TV is like more valuable in general, but like a big reason it sold for so cheap was because there was no TV distribution attached to it. Like they were pretty much just getting like the branding in the library or whatever.
Right.
If that's the case for this, because that's kind of what it sounds like, right? Like if they're not on Sinclair and they don't have any like TV put in place that they're like purchasing like any kind of rights from or anything, it's hard for me to believe that WCW would be worth 2.5 million, but ROH would be worth 20 to 40.
I do not know. I can't imagine ROH being worth that much, but it's negotiation, right? Like WCW, they just by that point they were just done with it because there just wasn't much value, especially with the TV not attached. They didn't get a bunch of the big contracts either. They had to wait out all of that stuff. There are no contracts when it comes to ROH. I don't know. It could have just been a lot of negotiation where they were offered one thing and then they just kept driving it up and Tony just said, all right, fuck it. Like I'll just pay whatever at this point. And Tony, this absolute lunatic, just decided to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to hear more about this as time passes and like more information comes out, because I mean, WCW, even when they went out of business, they were polling probably between 3 and 4 million viewers, even at that time, maybe a little less, maybe in the twos, or they were doing millions of viewers, higher number than Ring of Honor has ever had. I mean, like most of their stuff combined probably doesn't do what, I mean, I just can't imagine the value being that
Ring of Honor did
time.
Me, you, Joseph, and O'Neal, and those were the only people that watched it during the pandemic. Nobody else watched that show.
Yeah. I mean, that's unfortunately true. Our honor hour for life. So, Bob of Honor. But yeah, that said, it isn't comparing apples to apples. It's an apples to oranges type thing. But it just got my wheels spinning a little bit, thinking like, there's no way Ring of Honor could have been that much more valuable. I mean, there's no way it was more valuable than WCW to begin with. But the WCW, that was a whole other situation. It got sold for pretty much pennies at the time. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, what do you think? Like, I guess like if you had to put one answer on this, like, does Ring of Honor, like, what do they do? Do they run weekly television? Do they just go to like a GCW type model? What I would do is I would link them with GCW as often as I could. Like anywhere GCW is going, I'd have Ring of Honor right there, like with them, working hand in hand, just to get as much buzz as they could out of the wrestling world right now.
I would kind of bring it back to the old Ring of Honor days, which is sort of what GCW is doing, and just kind of run your weekly events. Don't even worry about television. Use it for guys who are kind of on dark, who just maybe want to work more in the live crowd. Get the live crowd experience. Like you get some experience on dark and everything, especially Elevation, since they taped that before Dynamite. But involve guys more in those storylines that just aren't like, you know, Jay Lethal is never on television. Tony Nese is never on television. They sign these guys, they don't do anything with them. The Wingmen, they're barely on television. Have them and actually like run some storylines and stuff with them as part of ROH, and then bring in other talent and things like that. The problem if you're doing that is like people are just gonna know it's just like B stuff, because it's like, okay, well, AEW, that's where your actual top stars are, and that could be like not the best optics. But if Tony Khan is running it, I don't know how any other optics you're going to present it as, because it's always going to be B stuff. You're not going to have Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, and these guys, like they might show up for cameos. Their main stuff is not going to be on Ring of Honor. So it's just always going to kind of look like B-level stuff. If I'm Tony Khan, I'm honestly just passing it off to somebody else. I have the tape library. I think that's the big draw. I'm just like, here, somebody else, like this man already does enough. He doesn't need to try running a second wrestling promotion as an actual wrestling promotion beyond just booking a bunch of cool pops and dream matches. And so that's what he does in AEW anyway. So
yeah, that's all very, very true. I saw a comment in here about the number, the sale. I think Ville's Mafia said that Andrew Zarian said it this morning. Now, if this is true, this makes a lot more sense. And
Zarian doesn't know shit.
You said that, not me. I like the guy. I like what they do over there. But that said, it says that he said that WWE paid $4 million for WCW, but then they agreed to run $20 million in ads for Warner over the next year. So it really was a value at like $24 million. Now, if that's true, this makes a lot more sense. A lot more sense to me.
Shout out to Andrew Zarian. I like Zarian. I just he knows a lot. He was the one that really fueled the AEW streaming on HBO Max stuff yesterday, and I do think that is going to happen at some point. That obviously was not the big announcement yesterday. Zarian is right more often than he is wrong, but I'll still bury him. He didn't hang out with me in Chicago last year. He likes Joel Pearl. I don't know who likes Joel Pearl. Zarian does. That's a big strike against them. That's honestly the biggest.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, that's the biggest strike against them.
Speaking of Joel Pearl, y'all can watch me and him playing some Mario Kart tonight around 7 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv.
Shit, we might still be doing this show at 7 p.m.
Yeah, it'll probably be a transition where like I turn this camera off and go right into Skype for gaming. But twitch.tv/Fightful Gaming tonight if y'all want to play some Mario. If you have a Nintendo Switch, you can play Mario Kart with us. We'll give you the tournament code.
I'm going to catch up on some super chats, and then we'll get into the other AEW topic. Mark Losberry says, finally getting a chance to catch the Prince of Fightful and the Workhorse live. I'll let you two figure out which is which. Keep killing it, mates. I don't know which is which. You work very hard, Stephen Jensen. I'd like to think I'm the workhorse, but I could be a prince. I'm second in command. When the other dirt sheet writers get together in the bathroom and talking about how they're gonna do in Sean Ross Sapp, I will be in charge of this website, and it'll go downhill very fast. I don't know anything, so I could be the prince. You could be the workhorse.
Yeah, I figured that he meant that you were the prince. I'll take. I mean, if you want to label me as a workhorse, I will gladly accept it. You can call me Workhorse Man because I like JD Drake and Anthony Henry. But, yeah, no, I mean, I would never refer to myself as a workhorse. But I do appreciate the super chat and the kind words. I'm glad you were able to catch the show as well.
Mark also says, for someone as rich as TK, 40 million is nothing. Bargaining chip and contract negotiating to say, I can walk away and start a streaming service. Yeah, I don't know about the 40 million. I don't know what that's true or not. I really don't. So somebody said Triple H should run it. Honestly, yes.
Oh wow.
Mark also says, this sounds like the greatest train wreck of it. I assume you're just talking about the show, Mark. Like this show that we're doing right now is just a complete train wreck, and you're in. And that's why you're hanging out with us. Ricardo L. Idolo-Hausen says, here's some love, guys. Free Ali. Appreciate you, Ricardo. One of the best. Ricardo's a guy. Appreciate you showing some love, buddy. And he also said, love the idea of Roads of Honor. Thoughts? I mean, we talked about it. We talked about it, that Cody Rhodes and The Fiend. I want The Fiend involved. All right? That's what we need. That is what we need. And JJ says, where does this leave Impact? TK wants a monopoly. JJ, you're Mr. Impact. It's not going to die. It leaves them in the same spot they've been for 20 years now. All right? They're just there. They exist. That's it. That's where it leaves Impact.
Very true. Very true. But I wouldn't be surprised if he bought them too.
Mad King says, if there's ever a AEW New Japan Supercard, what is the headliner? Hangman versus Okada, title versus title. I think it is probably Omega versus Okada. You don't need titles for any of this stuff because you're not going to unify those titles or anything. So I think you just do like matches for the sake of matches, which is fine. And I think you'd probably do Omega versus Okada because, I mean, it's Omega versus Okada again.
Yeah. Or Omega versus Ibushi. Or Ibushi and Omega teaming against like a big time tag team, like a mix of maybe both companies or
Okada and
like
Hangman, Okada and Punk, Okada and Danielson. Oh fuck, Omega and Ibushi versus Okada and Danielson. Oh shit, give me
Omega and Okada versus, this is just me as a fan, versus Ishii and Kingston.
I'm all for it. I want Ishii and Kingston like in a match. Like that's a match I'm doing. Fuck, I'm teaming. Like give me them just knocking the shit out of each other. That's what I want. Other ROH, other AEW topic. CM Punk and MJF. We saw it coming, right? Stephen Jensen, CM Punk, MJF. We knew MJF was going to be a dick again. He was. Go ahead.
Well, no, literally last week, I was like, I saw him do this exact thing in Southern Underground Pro where he did this exact speech and then kicked the dude in the nuts right afterwards. I'm like, this is exactly the same thing, just with the added layer of like CM Punk being involved with the story. But not that I didn't like it. I absolutely love this. But like, there were people out there that thought MJF had just like turned babyface. It's like, no. Like this.
I mean, he did for a week. He did turn babyface for a week, but we knew it wasn't going to last. It was just a matter of not if, but when. And you figured it would happen this week, but maybe they kept it going until the pay-per-view, and then Punk has reservations about doing stuff at the pay-per-view, and then MJF comes out and just, knocks the hell out of him and shows no remorse, and then Punk has to rechange his whole game plan. But no, he kicked him in the dick last night. He hung him. He cut a CM Punk promo on him. I'm sure everybody got the references of, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled and everything. All that stuff with CM Punk. What he said was Summer Punk and everything. So it went where I expected it to go. But here is why it's my spotlight, because I'm very interested in this finish, in that MJF should maybe win, especially if you're setting him up for a world title run going into Double or Nothing. Like, I don't think he should lose this match. I understand they can easily rebuild him between now and May when Double or Nothing is. But like, I would probably have MJF win, arguably the biggest match of his career. I know he challenged for the AEW title once before. I would have him win this match. If I would have him win this match. All right, the EP's texting me that we're out of Oreos, and now I'm furious that we have no
dude,
Oreos.
you can't have that.
No, I gotta go to the store after this and get a bunch of Oreos.
Do you ever dip Oreos in peanut butter?
Peanut butter?
I use peanut butter sometimes on Oreos. It's
what?
Really yeah, it's really good. I learned it from I think it was like It Takes Two. It was like one of those old movies, like the Olsen twins. I think it was, where they're like the parent trap. It was one of those two movies. Anyways, I love Oreos. I eat Oreos all the time. I actually just ate Oreos last night. I love Oreos.
Peanut butter, though. I don't know.
Listen, not always, but like it is to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, I did. It's in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you have done Oreos and peanut butter and you like it. 2 in the chat if you've never done it. Anyway.
Put a 3 in the chat if you have done it and think it's the most disgusting thing in the world. Because I'll do it tonight. All right. I will do it. I'll do Oreos and peanut butter tonight. I'll give my review on Twitter. And people, Jensen, you're crazy for doing peanut butter and Oreos. That just sounds. Oh, Armand has done it.
Let's go.
What'd you think, Armand? Was it good? Like
Ricardo?
Okay, I want to know what you guys think about this. Fuck this MJF
Max
Punk topic. We're just talking about
Alpha
Oreos.
Tank.
Dude,
there's more people with the 1 and then a 2 in here right now.
Oh man, I feel like I should be upset about this.
I mean, do you like Reese's and stuff? Or do you like peanut butter?
Oh, I love Reese's.
Together?
Reese's are okay. Armand like it. Reese's.
So
what
I do, I'll tell you what I do.
Okay.
I take one of the Oreos, like the full Oreo, and I take some peanut butter, not a ton, just a little gob of peanut butter, and I put it on top of the Oreo, right? A nice little amount of peanut butter. Then I take another Oreo and I put it on top of that, so it's like a mega Oreo with peanut butter in the middle, and I just eat the whole thing. It's so good.
I don't know about this. Do you like the different style of Oreos that they have? Like,
not really. I don't veer out too much. Double stuffed is about as crazy as I'll get, but like all the like random. I just saw like a wrestler reviewing random Oreos the other day. Who was that? There was like I think it was a girl. Somebody was like does Oreo reviews in like AEW or something, and they were doing like these weird Oreo flavors.
Is it?
It was the bunny. It was the bunny because she did it with Danhausen. Yeah. But anyways, no, I generally don't. Like, I've tried some of the other ones, but in all honesty, I think the best ones are just the original. Like, double stuffed is okay. Like, I'll eat double stuffed. I'll never complain about it. But I think just like the regular old school OG Oreo is just the best one still.
I agree. I like birthday cake. If you ever have birthday cake Oreos, those are very good. I've had the mint ones. They're not bad as well. I want to do something dumb like this I feel like Denise tried this or something of like something that there's just like a lot of like chips. There's like a million chip flavors. I just want to review chips and put that shit on Overbooked.
MLJ does that on Twitter sometimes. He just gets like a random bag of chips from like a company he's never had before, and he just like reviews them for a couple minutes. Yeah, it's good content. Good stuff. I'm glad that this has so much to do with wrestling. That
hey, you tied it in with the bunny reviewing Oreos, so it worked. We brought it back around. All right, MJF and CM Punk. I'm interested in this finish because I wouldn't have MJF lose if you're setting him for the world title. But there's the Wardlow factor, and like after he slapped him last night, I could see this being where Wardlow does his turn on MJF to help CM Punk. That's sort of what I'm leaning at for this show. I'm leaning at Wardlow turning on MJF. Now, does it happen before or after the match? Because he could hypothetically help MJF win the match. And then after the match, after MJF celebrates and everything, Wardlow's like, all right, I helped you. Fuck this. I'm done with you. And then that's the big program coming out of it. How are you booking this finish, Stephen Jensen?
Okay, so I have to preface this by saying there's probably no one in the world that wants to see MJF win this match more than me. Like, I am so all in on MJF. I want him to be the next AEW World Champion. Huge fan, right? Talk about him all the time. That said, I do think CM Punk's going to win this weekend. And I do think it will have to do with Wardlow, because a big part of the last match, even though, and there's layers to this, right? MJF has technically beat him twice. So like, he'll always have that claim of like, I'm 2-1 against Punk. Doesn't mean I can't go after the world title. I've already beat this guy twice. So he got lucky against me one time, and Wardlow helped him. So how good is he really, kind of thing. In the first match, Wardlow directly influenced the finish of the match by like sneaking that weapon to MJF. And this match, I think something similar will happen where Wardlow will have a chance to help MJF and he won't. And it'll cost him the match at the very end. Where I'm worried is Wardlow and MJF going forward, because I feel like you have to put Wardlow over MJF when that happens. But I don't want Wardlow to be in like the world title mix at this time. And I don't want MJF losing anytime soon either, especially if he's going to lose to Punk this weekend. So like, I'm intrigued to see when Wardlow and MJF actually wrestle. Maybe they'll like really, really slow. I mean, they've slow built it up to this point for, since the beginning of AEW, but maybe it'll be months down the road still, even after he turns, but like they'll be linked, but like they won't have the match for a few months or something. I don't know. But my point is, I think CM Punk I think he's going to win. I don't think that they're going to put him in this spot where he loses twice in his hometown of Chicago to MJF. And then he gets the piss beat out of him last night on Dynamite. And by the way, just a little wink, wink to anybody ever who watches wrestling that might not know this for whatever reason. If you ever see wrestlers wearing all white that normally don't wear white, there's going to be a lot of blood. Okay, so like I was totally, the second I saw CM Punk wearing an all white shirt,
he was paying tribute to Bryan Danielson.
Right, yeah, right.
Bryan Danielson shirts.
But then it was like MJF came out in like all white too, and I was like, oh, there's gonna be so much blood here in a second. Yeah. And so that's just a little rule of thumb usually for if you see a wrestler wearing white that normally doesn't, they're usually trying to get over the fact that they're a baby face now, or there's gonna be a lot of blood, or both. That said, I just don't think. See, once again, me personally, I want to see MJF just win again. Like, no matter how big of a dick this guy is, no matter how big of, he's the devil. He said it himself, and he's referencing Punk, like you said, from years back. And if this dude just went out there, and especially if he didn't use any help, if he just beat CM Punk, just beat him down, beat him up, and actually just beat him, I think that'd be incredible. I would love to see that as a fan. But I don't think that's a realistic thing, and I don't think it's necessarily the best thing for AEW's like business, because CM Punk is still, he's one of the most famous guys they've got. He's still very, very good in the ring. He's doing great work on the microphone. He's, he gets a massive pop every time he's out there in front of the fans. Like, so I think the only way MJF wins this match, in my opinion, is if he wins and CM Punk is ultimately the one to beat MJF for the world title like a year from now. Like if they came back to it, and that was CM Punk's big redemption on MJF was winning the title from him, because he'd be 0-3, 0-2, however you look at it. But I think it's just way more likely that Punk gets the win back this weekend. And like you said, it doesn't really hurt MJF. I mean, once again, in a perfect scenario, MJF just wouldn't be losing heading into a title shot against Hangman.
And we don't know if he is going to get this title shot. People in the chat have mentioned, like, Double or Nothing. They don't see MJF challenging for the title at Double or Nothing. I think we kind of feel it's on that path because he is the hottest heel in the company. And I mean, Hangman needs something to like really sink his teeth into right now. I don't think the Adam Cole storyline has been great. And I don't think it should main event. I think the dog collar match should main event. And I do think, like, especially based on this feud, it's MJF's time, honestly. Yeah. Like, it feels like MJF's time. That's why we think he will be the challenger for Double or Nothing. Obviously, he might not be. And if he's not, then sure, he can lose this match and it'll be fine.
I'll add this too, just real quick. I think that I have to really think about it, but I've thought about it a little bit. I think this is the best feud AEW has done in company history, is CM Punk and MJF up to this point. Like, and if the match delivers, which I guarantee you it will on Saturday, like we talked about this a little bit last week, like Hangman and Omega and that whole story and him winning the title and all that. In my opinion, this is like the highest tier level of overall professional wrestling that I've seen in a really long time. Just the story and the matches and how invested people are and how real things seem to be getting. And it's one of those things where like I saw MJF last night before he came out to like confront Punk, and there was like a legitimate like eerie, uncomfortable feeling about seeing MJF, just like because he gets down into your bones almost. Where you're like, this is the biggest piece of shit in wrestling. Like this guy is there is not one redeeming quality about this guy except for all the stuff he said last week, which was all true. But it's almost like the Joker or something, right? It's like this villain origin story of like, yeah, bad stuff happened to you when you were younger, and now you're way worse at all the things that happened to you. Like now you're like the biggest reason everybody else is miserable. And I just love how they lean into it with him. And it's just a different feeling. You feel like he's actually evil out there. And like and for a guy at his age with this talent, that's why another reason I'm just so high on him, because he could be this guy for the next 15 years if he stays healthy. That's what's so impressive about all this.
I mean, he said he's done after 10 years. He's going to Hollywood. He's making that leap. So like, if you believe that, and honestly, he probably has a big future there if that's where he eventually wants to go. But you're right. If he does stick around for longer, he can run wrestling with the depth. He can do the different things he can do. We talked about it a little bit last week, but like this guy just pulls you in, man. Babyface or heel, like he's shown he could be a babyface if he wants to. He pulls you in, and that's why I think he should win on Sunday, and I think he should go on. He should win the title at Double or Nothing. I don't know if that's where they're going to go with it. I think they should. Yeah, I think Tony Khan is a coward if he does 50-50 booking and just does CM Punk victory. I think it's cowardly. Have MJF win. Have him hold that over Punk. And like you said, come back and revisit this in 6 months to a year. And MJF being the champion and being the guy that CM Punk can't beat, and then have CM Punk get his redemption in that way. Come back and revisit it in that time. Don't be a coward, Tony Khan. Don't 50-50 book MJF and CM Punk.
But in their minds, and MJF's mind, especially as a character, it's really more like 33% booking it, because he's beaten them twice. That's what MJF's fallback is going to be if he loses on Saturday. It's going to be, I beat Punk twice, he beat me once, I'm still better than CM Punk. And Wardlow helped him beat me. I'll say this. This is kind of my prediction, right? When it comes to my Wrestle Rumble predictions, where I have money invested to try to win things, and I'm going based on like my mind and not my heart, I'm picking CM Punk to win the match. But as a wrestling fan, you better believe I am all the way rooting for MJF to win this match.
I think Punk is going to win, and I will call Tony Khan a coward if CM Punk wins this match.
Wait, so do you think? I don't know if you said that right. You do think CM Punk is going to win?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think CM Punk's going to win. I think MJF should win, and I think you kick off the storyline with Wardlow after the match. I mean, Wardlow's going to be in the face of the Revolution. That's going to play a factor. MJF said he could keep his title shot and everything. If Wardlow turns, you kind of mentioned it. If Wardlow turns, like Wardlow should probably beat MJF, but then MJF losing that when he's the champion. There's a lot of factors at play when it comes to this stuff. I would have MJF win this match. I'm not even sure if I would do the Wardlow turn yet. I don't know if you can stretch this until the end of Double or Nothing. I'd try. I would definitely try. I think people are going to be upset if you tried to do that. Somebody in the chat, and I guess this was said on the post show last night, of Wardlow just has a 90-day no-compete clause. Let him go work ROH. Let Wardlow go to ROH for a little while, and then when he comes back, he'll get a big pop. I would have MJF win this match. As far as what you're doing with Wardlow and everything, that's tough to figure out, and that's probably why CM Punk is going to win, because I don't think MJF will be the next challenger for the AEW World Title. As much as I think he should be going into Double or Nothing, I don't think he will be, and that's why CM Punk's going to win this match.
Yeah, I think that it's AEW can afford to do that too. When it comes to like, they don't have to do MJF beating Hangman by then. Like, Hangman can have another quality win in May. He can maybe lose in September, or maybe he loses towards the beginning of the year or whatever. I mean, like they're not in really any rush to make all of these things happen. And their talent, their roster is so stacked that, like, I mean, you can pretty much plug and play, like, kind of what the Adam Cole and Hangman thing is this weekend. Like, we didn't have a whole lot of meat on the bones in, like, the story itself, but we know it's going to be a banger of, like, an actual in-ring match. The same thing with Archer. Like, you just knew it was going to be something good. You know, like,
I need some meat on the bones when it comes to the world title, though. The Archer thing I didn't think was good because he'd been losing and he just attacked. They just gave him bullshit wins. And Cole kind of feels the same way. I think they left a lot of meat on the Adam Cole story and they rushed it because, like, they had him lose the Orange Cassidy. I don't like this Hangman and Adam Cole match. Should be great. It feels very hollow to me. So I need something. Whatever Hangman Page does next, going into Double or Nothing, assuming he's still the champion, I need it to be like an actual good feud and not something that's just like, number one contender. He lost this match to Orange Cassidy that didn't count on the records, but he beat Evil Uno. That's cool. Like, I need an actual story for Hangman Page.
That's fair. I think that's totally fair. So yeah, but I think at the end of the day, we're kind of all on the same page where, like, it's clear that MJF is going to be their world champion. It's just a matter of, like, when they do it. And kind of the unknown is the Wardlow feud. Like, that's really the unknown of, like, when that all takes place and who wins. And because you got to assume Wardlow will beat him. Otherwise, like, you almost kind of wasted, like, a 3-year-long build for the breakup. But I also I have nothing against Wardlow, but, like, if it's my choice, it's like, who am I pushing, Wardlow or MJF? I'm going MJF 10 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, but with that said, Punk and MJF should be the main event, I think, of the pay-per-view. I agree with you on that.
Let's move on to our other spotlight, and Mark's going to set us up here. It says Impact is a cockroach and that they'll survive in the next evolutionary cataclysm. They're Twinkies, man. They ain't going nowhere. Your spotlight for other. Apparently, there's an Impact show this week. I forgot the name of it.
Sacrifice.
On our. I completely forgot the name of it. But Jay White is here to tell us the name of it.
Sacrifice! 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 Sacrifice!
Sorry, I blew that. I didn't know you were setting up for something there. I thought you legitimately didn't know the name of it.
Thank you, Jay White. No, on the show that you're fine. The show that I did Pillar to Post, where we had our roundtable thing, I called it No Surrender. I was like, Impact No Surrenders on Saturday. And all the panelists were like, huh? What? And they're like, oh, it's Sacrifice, Jeremy. It's like, oh, shit. All right, sure. It's Sacrifice. I completely botched the name of it on that show. That's why I was setting that up. Heath is challenging for the world title. I don't have much to say about this, Jensen. This show, I'm sure it'll be fine. And people will be like, oh, Impact knocked it out of the park. And then they won't watch the television ever again. I can't. Heath challenging for the world title. I ain't got nothing to say. All right. It's Heath. Bless him. Fine wrestler. Heath against Moose. I ain't watching that shit.
Yeah. So, my spotlight this week for other category is, in fact, Heath getting a world title shot against Moose. This was kind of all set up. Moose came out and he did this promo about, you know, he's the champion that needs to be acknowledged, and he's running down all these people that he's defended the title against and retained the belt over and all this stuff. And of all the people on Impact's roster, it's not Ace Austin. It's not Chris Bay. It's not Willie Mack. It's not even Josh Alexander. Heath comes out. And not only that, he gets the better of Moose in the ring. Like, he beats him up, Moose retreats, and Heath is standing there with the Impact World title held high over his head. I'm not going to sit here and say all the stuff I always say about all the names that I just mentioned and about why aren't they pushing these guys? But this just kind of goes to my point. Like, you got all this talent, all this young, pretty much unexposed to the world talent, and you're going to Heath as your world title challenger. Like, that's pretty much all I can say about it too. It's mind boggling. Like, nothing against Heath, but, like, come on, you know, I feel like you feel the same way I do about this.
Mark Losberg says maybe Punk turns heel in this match. Maybe Punk will turn
heel. We're going back to talking about
Yes, I'm not talking about Heath and Moose. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I didn't forget y'all super chat, guys. I got the bit going here. He also says Wardlow MJF goes to Double or Nothing. Punk shows heel tendencies during the match, beats MJF, then goes to Hangman. That's my prediction. That's not bad. I've been waiting for heel CM Punk. We saw some instances of it in the Eddie Kingston feud. I've been waiting for that, and I do think that's eventually the direction they will go. So I'm not mad at that. And then Kurt Benoit says, here late, here high. Do you think Owen, Zayn, and AJ regret re-signing after the ROH news? Keep doing such wonderful work, you two. Kisses. I don't think they regret it. That money, maybe if Tony had paid them more instead of, $40 million for ROH, they would have signed. All right? That's on Tony.
Yeah. Well, kisses. Appreciate that. I think that to go back to the last super chat, like I've been fiending for CM Punk to turn heel. So like, trust me, I can't wait for whenever that happens. And Hangman is like such an obvious, just great story for the title. Cause that's another thing. If Punk beats MJF, I'm fine with Punk and Hangman if Punk turns heel, especially if a big part of the story is based around him not respecting that Hangman is like this alcoholic and all this stuff like that. Like that's just so up CM Punk's, wheelhouse of who his character is and who he is as a person and stuff to call him out for that kind of stuff. I think that it would be, I could see that. I think once again, I think MJF beating Hangman is like, that's the right move in my opinion, but I'm not completely opposed to CM Punk beating Hangman if the story's right and it turns Punk heel. Especially because we talked about it last week. If there's any way to get sympathy or to turn the fans towards someone like MJF, it's like you got to have a bigger dick of a heel around. And like CM Punk as a heel is dastardly. Like that dude goes for the throat in the stuff that he'll say about people.
Yeah, he mentioned it last night in his promo. Yeah. Where he's talking about, I poured alcohol down an alcohol's throat. Like I talked about drug issues, and then the guy got released. Like he is, and I do wonder if like he even wants to play that kind of biting heel anymore, especially with MJF around, because MJF is that kind of biting heel. So I do wonder if CM Punk even wants to like go there. I do think he'd be great as a heel. I just don't know if that's anything that he wants to do at this point, at least to that level. He can still be a heel, but I don't know if he's going to go to that level.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know, but it was great to hear him address that stuff, like acknowledge it. So word that gets used a lot in wrestling now, huh? Acknowledging people. But yeah, so I'm with you. Thanks for the super chats, y'all. Any thoughts at all about Heath? I mean, I know that's and by the way, it's a very valid. Like if your answer is basically just like, this is lame, I'm not into it. Like that's very valid. Like that might be all we need to say about it. Like no one's talking about this pay-per-view. I don't know if we're even doing a post show for this thing. Like I'm usually on there with Denise. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know if like Fightful's even covering this show. I have no idea. That's how little people are talking about it. That said, I hope it doesn't overlap with Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal this weekend, but that's a whole other conversation in itself. So. How do you feel about Heath? World champion match.
Huh? I'd much rather talk about Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal fight than talk any more about this farce of an Impact World title match that they are trying to sell to people. I guess it's on Impact Plus, so if you have that subscribed, you already get it. But yeah, I have nothing else to say. Nothing else to say about it.
Yeah, it's
good luck to anybody watching that show. I know Jay White's on it. I love Jay White. Him and Alex Shelley should be a great match. Look, man, you're not gonna convince me that Moose and Heath is a world title match. I don't care if it's a 2-week program. Maybe don't do a pay-per-view 2 weeks after you do one. How about that? Like, how about space these things out so you have time to build challengers and you're not relying on Heath, the guy who he had the funny line because he was in the ring with Brock Lesnar and Brock Lesnar made the line better. He said, I don't give a damn about your kids. Maybe do that. Space out your pay-per-views. Heath and Moose. It's heat, I'm sure. I'm sure Moose would say it's great heat. I'm going to beat up Heath in front of his kids. It's fantastic. How's that Josh Alexander redemption story working out for you? Your company sucks, JJ.
Oof.
says Jay White is the most important thing in Impact right now. That's a pretty gigantic indictment. Yeah, and I don't know how long he's going to be there for. So you may as well, again, actually use him as something instead of. I'm all for Jay White and Alex Shelley, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'll say this real quick, just because we did bring up Masvidal and Covington. Just for anyone who's interested, we're not doing a watch along for it this weekend, but if you do want to watch the UFC this weekend, even if you're not into MMA, this is the most pro wrestling style MMA feud and fight like you'll probably ever get to see. Like these guys, I mean, people might not even realize this. Dan Lambert was their coach. Like, you know what I mean? So like Dan Lambert had Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. So there's like all this speculation that this entire thing just is a work and stuff. And I'm not saying that it is, but this whole thing is a pro wrestling storyline that they've put together with one another and all this hate that they have for one another and stuff. So if you ever were going to give MMA a chance as a wrestling fan, this is probably the show to check it out. It's not even for a title, but it's just like it's pro wrestling in the octagon essentially. So
I'll watch it. I'm looking forward to it. I think Covington probably just holds him down for 5 minutes, but if not, should be fun. The build up,
Colby.
Yeah, the build up's been stupid pro wrestling fun. So for it, my other spotlight is Jeff Jarrett. He's going to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship within the next 3 months or so. He's been announced as a special guest referee for Cardona and all this. There's got to be some shenanigans involved somehow on this. I don't know if Jarrett is going to screw over Cardona to help all this. I don't know if he's going to help Cardona and then screw him over. I just know Jeff Jarrett is going to wrestle for the NWA World Heavyweight title at some point in the next 3 months. That's what I know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know. I'm going to assume that Cardona beats all this and Jarrett pretty much calls it down the middle. And then after the match, he hits Cardona in the head with a guitar or something. Like, even though Cardona is a heel in NWA, like
but Jeff would be the babyface. Jeff is the conquering.
Oh, that's true.
Babyface of like he's here to restore the tradition back to the NWA. You got Matt Cardona going to GCW with the title. Jarrett doesn't like GCW. He went in there and he beat Effie and everything.
Oh,
he's got Cardona's trying to reimagine NWA. He wants the bigger sets and the bigger social media following and stuff. Jeff Jarrett's going to be like, we're about tradition and, we're about the nostalgia and everything. That's what the three fans that are left are going to eat up. So Jarrett's the baby face.
Yeah. It's funny. Money Marked in the chat says that Jarrett's the cockroach of wrestling. I actually did an article for Fightful magazine. It's like the most recent one out. And the title of my article was Matt Cardona is the cockroach of wrestling. So it's kind of funny that, but yeah, I think that Jeff Jarrett will win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship again, especially if he decides that he doesn't want to lose like at GCW. So, yeah, I guess it just is what it is. I guess I'll ask you, like, is there anybody like, if like you're the NWA, you're Billy Corgan, you're people involved with NWA. You're
selling
like
to Tony Khan for $10 million.
Right. Yeah. That. But like, what do you do? Like, do you think Jeff Jarrett is like actually the best option for them to do something like this? Or do you think that Matt Cardona having the title gets them more buzz, a kind of better buzz, or is it just like, it's the NWA and people just don't pay attention anyway? So like YOLO.
I mean, the best option is to build a wrestling promotion that isn't just fully reliant on nostalgia. So you don't have to have Tyrus and Mike Knox headlining events. That's what I would do if I was Billy Corgan. I'd actually put together a competent wrestling promotion. That's why call me up, Tony Khan, slide in the DMs, even though I'm going to call you a coward next week. But, let me run ROH. Given the choices in front of me, if I'm Billy Corgan, I'd probably just put the title on Jeff Jarrett. Honestly, like you're going to get plenty of buzz off of that. You can then slip the title back to Cardona if you want to, but like It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. Mark Losberg says, "Hear me out, guys. Jeff Jarrett beats Heath for the Impact title after a run-in from, I don't know, Ric Flair or something." Sure, that's fine. Impact needs some buzz right now. Like, Impact could do something like that. Impact should partner with NWA. They got some type of partnership, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well,
I feel like all these companies have some type of partnership.
Well, there's a lot of overlap in talent right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there has to be some sort of friendly agreement to some degree. So
yeah. I'd put the belt on Jarrett. Who cares? Just put the belt on Jarrett and just recreate his whole TNA run where he's just beating dudes after 30 ref bumps and a bunch of shenanigans and guitar shots and everything. TNA's still surviving 20 years later after that. So I figure NWO would be fine if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, Planet Jarrett. Yeah, we'll see. The Ric Flair thing, I don't think is like that crazy of an idea either. As like,
no.
I honestly thought, and I know there's a lot of baggage with that, especially right now with Darkseid and all that stuff. I get it, but before that happened, when he was like mixing it up with Kenny Omega and AAA, they were like chopping each other and stuff. And then Ric Flair did this like whole speech on NWA. I think it was for NWA 73. I was like, they're gonna put the NWA World Heavyweight title on this dude.
Oh, it felt like
yeah.
It definitely felt like it. And then Darkseid came out like right after that. I think there's been enough distance between that now. He does his podcast every week where he spouts off his hot takes and everything. I think. I mean, obviously, that's still a big issue at this point. The problem with Flair is that he's just become a shell and a parody of himself more than, okay, hey, you got these allegations from Darkseid. It's just like, I wouldn't touch Ric Flair because he's just become just a maniac, honestly. He's become maniac, maybe not the best word, but he's become sad, really. Like, it's just become sad. Like, that's it. Watching Ric Flair do this shit, it's just sad. So that's why I wouldn't touch Ric Flair. But that said, NWA will probably do it. They'll probably put the title on him. Jarrett and Flair, the two most dominant NWA World Heavyweight Champions of all time. Buy it now. NWA 74 live from, we'll go back to the Chase. The Chase in St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can really dig deep and be like, Ric Flair was the leader of the Four Horsemen, and Jeff Jarrett was the worst member in the history of the Four Horsemen. So
that's not fair to Rick Martel.
Was Rick Martel? No, you're thinking of no. You're thinking of Roma. Paul Roma.
No, sorry. Apologies to Rick Martel.
I might put Mongo ahead of Jarrett though, like for the little time
Mongo
was there.
Fucking ruled, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. So Jeff Jarrett's probably win the NWA World Title. I'm with you, Jeremy. I think that's going to happen as well.
Yeah, Mongo ruled. Indies spotlight. We got to run through. We still got an interview with Cole Radrick to air. That's like a 35-minute interview. It's our longest show ever. A lot happened.
We have no hard out this week because we're not leading into anything this week. So
yes. Yeah, that's true. That is true. We're leading into Twitch.
Into my own thing, yeah.
Twitch. Joel Pearl is going to be yelling at me like, what are we doing? Indie Spotlight. Mine is Joey Janela and X-Pac, Sean Waltman. That was announced for spring break. X-Pac made his return to the ring this past weekend, teaming with Janela against Cardona and Myers. I'd rather see Brian Myers get a world title shot in Impact than Heath. That's a different topic. But They had their match. After X-Pac and Joey Janela won, Janela turned on him. He super kicked him. And then the next night, the challenge was laid down. It was made official. What do you think of X-Pac's return in this tag team match and then setting up the match at spring break?
So a few things. Physically speaking, he looked to be in really good shape when he came down to the ring. Like physically, he looks healthy, right? Like for a guy, yeah, and he's like 50. I mean, so he's
not skinny anymore.
Yeah. Because me and you, I mean, we remember when he was, I mean, he had
gotten, I am.
Yeah, and he had some really rough years, and and to see him, and on top of that, like, I am such a mark for the 6-ball T-shirt, the old NWO 6-ball T-shirt with that green 6-ball, and he has a GCW version of that now, so I marked out hard for that. It's like the GCW logo with that a 6-ball in the back. His gear I thought was great. It had like the 6-ball. It had X-Pac. They called him X-Pac. Like they marketed him as X-Pac during the match, which I thought was cool. He was gassed, very gassed out during the match.
Yeah.
But he did everything he needed to, and he got all his spots. And like the finish of the match was him hitting an X Factor off the second rope through a door. Like he did everything he needed to do. But then after the match, he's like trying to cut this promo, and he's like leaning against the ropes, like breathing heavy. And I'm not sitting here making fun of the dude. Like, I mean,
no, yeah, wrestled like 3 years and everything.
Yeah. But this is just reality of what happened. And he's cutting this promo, and part of the reason I bought so into what he was saying was because of how gassed he seemed. And he was like, I this is it. I'm retiring. And like, everyone's like, oh, wow, this is an incredible moment. Like, we got to see X-Pac come back. He looked really good in the ring. He gave it his all. He gave it everything he had. Like, he can barely stand right now. And he's telling us this is it. And like, what a moment. And I did not see that coming at all from Joe Janela. Like, I usually see stuff like that coming. That one was like, it reminded me of like the Hulk Hogan HBK, the super kick that happened there and stuff like that too. And I was like this is pretty badass. Like, I love that they've announced that match for spring break. Joe Janela has a history of having these types of matches with guys like Ricky Morton and stuff, guys that are well past their prime, but they have good matches. And Janela is the right guy to have this match with if you're X-Pac. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that spring break card is coming along nicely. I love that they've announced AJ Gray and Jon Moxley for the belt. And I think AJ Gray is going to leave the collective weekend as the GCW World Champion. At least I think that's what should happen, personally. So yeah, man, I liked it. I liked it a lot. What did you think about the return of X-Pac and this whole thing leading to a match with him and Janela?
I thought X-Pac, when he announced his return, he said he was gonna do more than one match. He wanted to go out on his own terms and everything. So I didn't think this was going to be his last match. I did not see this angle coming. I did not see this turn coming. He looked like a guy that hadn't wrestled in years. Like you said, he was out of breath. I'm sure he would admit that himself. That, or he's a great worker. The way he was huffing and puffing after the match, but his stuff looked as crisp as it's going to look at his age, and again, for somebody who hasn't been in the ring that long. And now he is setting up the match with Janela, and I'm looking forward to this. I am looking forward to a full X-Pac run. I said it before when he announced his return. I want him doing just sort of like dream match kind of stuff. And I don't know if that's what he's going to end up doing. I don't know if he's going to wrestle every single weekend. I do think maybe he should get another match or two before he does the Janela match, because I don't think it's great to have so much time off with the current state that he's in after taking three years off and everything. Like, I would try to get a couple more reps in before stepping back in there, which, at least get your win back and get just your ring bumps and your callus back on that with taking all those bumps. So I hope he is announced for kind of a couple upcoming GCW or any kind of indie events. I hope he's announced for that stuff, just so we can get a little bit more ring time in before the Janela match. Janela is obviously a great opponent for him because he's going to be loved or hated regardless, and a lot of it's just going to be off of story and emotion and not as much ring work. And Janela is underrated in the ring, I would say. I think people just kind of, they know him from his GCW work a little bit. They probably just know him for the deathmatch stuff. He's not on AEW television, so they probably just don't realize that Janela is good in the ring. That he's good in the ring and can carry something like this. But I'm looking forward to this match. I thought the angle was great. I love that they are doing an angle, as much as I just want, like, hey, X-Pac against, Blake Christian, X-Pac against Alex Zane, just like these cool little dream matches that you never thought you would see. I like that they're actually like doing some type of angle with them as well. So I thought it was about as good as you were probably going to get. And Cardona and Myers ate that shit up like in front of that crowd and everything. They were the perfect foils for them. I thought it was good as you're going to get for somebody who is 50 years old, coming off these surgeries, hasn't wrestled in forever. He's looking healthy, but somebody said thick Pac, like, look, man, he ain't 1, 2, 3 lightning kid, skin and bones. He's got the gut on him. He doesn't move as fast. It's reality of life, right? But
yeah,
for everything that he's been through, personally and professionally, and just the surgeries and everything, I thought he looked good. And I've always been a big fan of X-Pac and Sean Waltman. So it was nice to see him back in the ring.
For sure. And on the flip side, Joey Janela is in like the best shape of his life also. Like, he's really, so yeah, I like where all this is heading. And I also hope that if it's something that Waltman wants to do, like, I'd love to see him in like the Royal Rumble next year or something, like, I
mean, it sounded like he wanted to do it this year and they just didn't call him for some reason, which is unfortunate. They probably should have, but yeah, it'd be great if you wanted to do it next year too.
Yeah. And speaking of GCW, I will be live at GCW next weekend here in Atlanta. So looking forward to that. I'm going to try to get me some interviews again, which is a good segue because my independent spotlight this week was Terminus because I was there live at that show as well. And if y'all want to hear some interviews, they got some quick audio interviews with Baron Black, with Adam Priest, and with Nasty Leroy. Nasty Leroy was especially excited to talk because he was very offended that Sean Ross Sapp had interviewed Cheeseburger recently and slandered his name. And Nasty Leroy needed to get his side of this story out. The headline there for anyone who wants to write any stories about it, this is right up Jeremy's alley. Nasty Leroy has a beef with cheese. But so I'll try to get some interviews at GCW also. I don't know what the setup's going to look like, but I should have at least enough access to try to get some interview from somebody. But Terminus, man, how did that show come across watching it on Fight TV? And then I'll tell you, what it was like live.
There was not the technical hiccups that they had the first show. It was good, but I mean, it's not the elephant in the room. It was addressed on the show. That ending was a big damper on the night, like a pretty big damper on the night. The Jonathan Gresham's trying to fire the referee after the match. They're playing rock, paper, scissors and stuff. I'm glad they addressed it because it didn't come off well. And again, it would have been, I don't know if it would have been better or worse if they were just like, that, shit happens kind of thing. But Gresham just went out there and he addressed it. That was the biggest thing. Unfortunately, that was the biggest takeaway. I thought it was another good show. I still love the concept. It sucks that these two shows, the first one had the tech issues that it did, and this one had the ending that it did. Because if they could put it together, it'd be a great promotion. It sounded like we're going to get Terminus 3, which is great. What was your live experience like?
It was awesome. When you talk about that referee, he was actually hanging out next to Adam Priest right before I interviewed Priest after the show. And the ref, like, he felt so bad about that.
I would imagine so.
So bad. He was apologizing to fans, like, as they were, like, leaving. And it was like, and I told him, I'm like, listen, man, no one's going to remember this at the end of the day. Like, the match between Santana and Gresham, I thought was phenomenal. Like, that was the best I've ever seen. I mean, I love Santana and his tag team. I've been a fan since the EYFBO days, like before they were even like LAX and Proud and Powerful and all this stuff. Like, I'm a fan, but like, that was the best I've ever seen him, especially solo. I was like, this guy can really, really go. It's really unfortunate that the ref just got like the yips, he just froze. Like, he didn't count the 3 for whatever reason. And, but the ref felt so bad. So I was telling him, man, like, I was trying to make him feel better about it. And I think other fans were too. And I was like, man, you don't have to stand here and apologize to people. Like, mistakes happen, man. It's just bad timing that mistake happened then. I mean, that's all. At the end of the day, nothing anyone can do about it, and hopefully he gets some redemption next show. They bring him back for the next Terminus. He gets the main event and he nails that 3 count and everybody rejoices and he gets his big web redemption. But everything else on the show was great, man. I watched most of the show with Muscle Man Malcolm because he was there also doing interviews and whatnot. He actually worked the pre-show too for Terminus, which was really cool backstage. Got to meet the It's Still Real to Me Damn It guy from the old viral videos. I sent you a picture of that, Jeremy. He really badly wants to come on this show. So we're going to have him on the Creator Spotlight one week and we'll talk to him about that famous It's Still Real to Me Damn It. He was a guy I had to get a picture with too because my brother, who's not even into wrestling, that guy's a legend to my brother because if he remembers watching that with me forever ago. So that was cool. Shout out to Baron Black for the hospitality. Great dude. He just the whole everything is run very professionally there. Like even like Jordan Grace wasn't on the show, but she was there, and there were fans. So my thing is, I'm a little weird. If I'm in the car for a long time, I like to just stand for long amounts of time. So I stood the whole Terminus event because the drive was like an hour from my place, and I like being out and stretching and kind of walking around. And she was walking up to everybody who was standing, like, "Hey, I have extra chairs. Like, anyone need chair?" You know, she was just making sure people were comfortable. And I mean, it was just a really cool experience. AC Mack was there. He wasn't wrestling, but he was just there hanging out. And I had a chance to pull him aside and be like, "What's up, man? Remember doing the interview for Fightful?" And like, he was really happy to see me there. And so it was just a really, really cool experience. And the building is perfect for Terminus. Like, did it come across? I haven't been able to rewatch it. Did it come across really, really loud in the building? Because I got a little feedback about that, but it was loud in there.
Yeah, they probably could have mic'd it a little bit better. But it seemed like everyone, you could tell from the reactions that it was loud in the building. They didn't have the tech issues that the first one did, but could they have mic'd it better? Probably. I think a lot of companies, especially newer companies, have trouble micing anyway. But I never felt like, oh, this crowd is just completely dead. Like I have with, certain promotions that they didn't mic, like the GCW Hammerstein show. Like
right.
A lot of people who were there were like, oh, it was crazy all night. And like you watch that show, it was like, oh no, like it sounded dead for some of these matches. And I never had that feeling when it came to Terminus.
Yeah, well, that's good. Because that was a bummer with the Hammerstein show. It really was. Like, it really seemed like the crowd wasn't into it, but people that were there live were like, no, we were way more into it than what it showed on TV. But that Terminus show, man, from start to finish, and like some people got like real big ovations. Like I thought Serena Deeb got a really big ovation. I hope she's at more of those shows. She's so perfect for Terminus.
She is.
There was one that was Leon Ruff got a massive pop. So there was some kind of sleepers in there too, people that I'm a fan of, but I didn't know how receptive the crowd was going to be to everything, and they loved it all. I love the sport aspect of it. I love the Baron Black and Jay Lethal match. Like it really looked like multiple times I thought Baron was going to get him, and I'm kind of waiting for Baron to get like that big win on Terminus, but because he's so such a big part of like putting that show together. But it's like, just talking to him after the show, he has this whole list of people he wants to wrestle. And yeah, so it was just a really cool experience all the way around. And I thought the show was really, really, really good. Like it was a great live wrestling show. The pacing felt good. At no point did I think it was like dragging or going too long. Like they moved from match to match quickly. Every match was different than the others. I mean, the thing started off on the pre-show with the British rounds match with Adam Priest and Invictus Cash. And like, you never see British rounds matches in the US, so it's like, it was just a really cool thing. There was multiple matches that went to sudden death, which I think if you're a sport, like those things will happen. Yeah, I love the show. I mean, huge shout out. If anyone hasn't seen it, I highly recommend going to Fight TV, check out Terminus 2. And once again, just huge thank you to Baron Black. Like I've already talked to him about when Terminus 3 is going to be happening, like to be there for that too. So like I hope to be a staple at all these Terminus shows.
And that's one thing that I know Gresham believes a lot in. And I imagine, I haven't talked to Baron Black, but I imagine he feels very similar of trying to make everything different. Because when you think of Terminus, especially when it comes to Gresham, you would want it to be, you would want it to, when you think of Terminus, you think like sort of like the technical kind of grappling stuff, and they announce different people and whatnot, but every match still has a different feel. And even with the style that they present, you could think there could be some overlap in everything. You mentioned the sudden death, multiple matches going to sudden death. You think, oh, well, there's overlap. Why are they doing the same thing? Every match still does feel very different on that show because everyone does bring their own unique style to it. And I think Gresham and Baron Black are very meticulous in like laying out that kind of stuff when it comes to putting the show together and then with who they're choosing and who they're matching up as well. And that's one thing I really love about Terminus. Again, they just have one thing that just it overshadows what a good show it actually is. Like that's sort of that's unfortunately what is held back both shows. Is it's just the show is great, but first one, technical issues. This one, referee issue. it is that one thing that's like, this is what kind of people are talking about coming out of it. And it's unfortunate because these shows are fantastic.
Yeah. And to be fair, I'm not, this isn't an excuse, but this is just kind of a point. Like GCW, they have these kind of problems almost all the time where like there's technical issues. They don't know if it's their fault or Fight TV's fault or whatever, but they just kind of move past it. You just kind of get used to it. As weird as it is, like I just get used to the idea that like the crowd's going to be mic'd weird. I get used to the idea that like MLJ, like I'm just going to kind of hear his voice going in different volumes throughout the show and stuff but I'm not saying that's good. I hope that they fix these things, but like it doesn't take away my overall experience watching the show. Now that said, the referee thing, that's just a freak thing. It's just unfortunate. But like the actual technical issues, the first show I heard there was quite a bit of those. I got a lot of that feedback. Yeah. Was there really any of that the second show, or was it mainly just the referee botch that was like the issue?
It was mainly the referee botch. There was no tech issues to where they had to issue apologies and the Fight TV feed cutting and everything like that. Those were definitely cleaned up. The tech issues were more of just like kind of your run of the mill, like the miking of the crowd, like kind of production issues that a lot of indie companies are still going to run into, especially one on their second show. But the referee botch was the thing that just sort of just highlighted the entire show.
Okay.
Highlighted in a bad way of like what the overarching thing of like, oh, okay, this might have happened. That might have happened. That wasn't good. But we kind of forgot about it because of the referee issue.
Right. And what was so unfortunate about that particular referee issue is that the finish was done so well.
Yeah.
Like they were just going ham in there, just false finish after false finish after false finish and just reversals. It was great. And then like and this probably came across exactly how it did in the building, like volume wise or whatever on Fight, but like no one made a sound.
It was very,
the
very
actual
flat.
3 count happened.
Yeah, very dead.
Yes. Because they had to go right to that jackknife cover. It was like just pin, and then it was like just dead silent. And that referee, you could see it on his face where he's just like, oh no. And I immediately just felt so bad for that guy. So yeah, like I said, hopefully he's at the next show. Hopefully we get a rematch. I mean, I'd like to see a rematch between the two. I'm not going to sit here and say like, I don't know if they can outdo themselves from the first match. I don't know, but their first match was really, 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 really good outside of that finish.
Let Jonathan Gresham run ROH alongside me and Stephen Jensen. Let him run ROH. Just turn in a Terminus. We'll be fine. Be great.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Shabogan leads us to Humper Chat. It says the titles being unimportant is less about the number and more about the way they're treated. You can make all the titles relevant if you don't treat them like they're. That's very true. I completely agree with that. And Mark says, news of the Jeremyverse. My God. Sorry to hear that. Can someone tell me if JJ is a gimmick or his taste is just different? All meant in fun, of course. He's not a gimmick, I don't think. JJ's JJ. Like, I don't know how you want me to explain JJ. He loves wrestling. He's a great guy, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. JJ's the absolute best. And I know Mark is being all in good fun. He's been very supportive of the show today. But yeah, JJ's the best. I guess if you want to say his taste is different, sure. But it's wrestling. We all got different tastes with it. Stephen Jensen is over here wanting Pat McAfee to ask Cody Rhodes, ask Vince McMahon like 2 million Cody Rhodes questions. All right.
Yeah.
We're all a little bit different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm over here going Cody Rhodes, Charlotte Flair. You know what I'm saying? Like let's push these people that everybody else is just so.
Yeah, let's push Charlotte Flair. That's definitely what we need.
But yeah, the best way I could explain JJ would be I mean, we have a lot of people that support a lot of the stuff we do at Fightful, and JJ is definitely one of those people that first comes to mind when it just comes to just support. Like I'm always seeing him in all the different live chats. He's always retweeting everything I'm doing, everything you're doing, everything with Fightful. Like he's a very supportive part of this. And Mark, we appreciate you too for joining in and being new to the Jeremyverse is awesome. And we hope to see you in here, often going forward. But JJ, let me put it this way. When I tweet something, if something's retweeted almost immediately, I don't even have to look. It's probably JJ.
Oh, it's 100% JJ. Yes. Bless. Like I wake up and now I'm up at like 6 a.m. every morning. So I'm sort of on British time. And the whole timeline is just retweet of the pals and everything. JJ is one of the most supportive and nicest people you're ever going to meet. As far as his wrestling taste goes, I don't know. People think my wrestling taste is terrible. JJ likes Impact. He likes Jeff Jarrett. He likes what he likes. We all like different stuff. Again, Stephen Jensen's asking for Charlotte Flair to win 30 world titles. Okay?
Yes.
We all like different stuff.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. You can like what you like in wrestling. Like TK says, watch your wrestling.
No, fuck that phrase. He trademarked it and everything.
Did he
really? Tried to push that. Yeah, he tried to push that thing in interviews. I listen to just about every Tony Khan interview. He tried to push that thing in interviews for like 2 weeks, and it did not catch on, and he finally dropped it. So now I'm mad at you for bringing it back up. I'm going to kick you out of the Jeremy verse.
Well, you know what, Jeremy? Speaking of wrestlers that, people, always like, Steven, why do you like this guy? Jeremy, you can GFY.
Jesus Christ. All right, you're done. Guys, we got taking Jensen off the screen. We have our interview with Cole Radrick.
I'm putting myself back on the screen, Jeremy, so you can't box me out like this when I have the power, okay? I have the power. But no, up next, we have an interview with Cole Radrick. It's awesome. He's one of my favorite independent wrestlers in the world. And I learned some new stuff, too. I knew he was new to death matches in GCW. I didn't know he had death matches prior. Like, there was some new stuff that I learned. Great conversation. Jeremy, go ahead and lead us into this interview with our dude, Cole Radrick.
I think this is the best interview we've done. Cole was in the indie spotlight for Jensen last week. We talked about his death match. Last week, we talked to Cole about his death match, talked to him about the big Starkz brand. We talked to him some mental health, some future plans and everything. I absolutely love this interview. I hope everybody else enjoys it as much as Jensen and I did. Here we go. Cole Radrick, GCW.
Welcome to the interview portion of the spotlight. I'm Stephen Jensen, as always, here with Jeremy Lambert. And our guest today is the king of Wreck Shit Mountain. He is the unsanctioned pro heavyweight champion. He is the ratty daddy, Cole Radrick. Thanks for coming on the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate being on here.
Yeah, we appreciate you too, man. And we talked a little bit in the DMs, and you're somebody I've been following for quite a while now. I think the first time I saw you was probably at SUP like years ago, out of Nashville. Because you did some shows there like years back, right? Like probably 3
I did
4
a
years
couple
ago.
scramble matches, I think. Yeah, for a couple times. Yeah.
So I got to see you live there, and then I just started seeing you kind of popping up everywhere. And like, I know you're an Indiana guy, but you're also becoming really big in Texas, like specifically in like the Houston area. So what's it been like just like the last handful of years, just kind of going from like, just kind of like under the radar to now like people are really starting to notice you, it seems like.
Yeah, it really comes out of nowhere. It comes up pretty quickly. Honestly, like I started for GCW in like 2019, in December 2019, right before the pandemic hit. And I got lucky enough just to start getting on their shows and more often. And during the pandemic, GCW was like one of the few shows running. So I got really, really lucky throughout the pandemic to be able to wrestle. And people were able to see me do my thing because, there weren't a lot of independent shows going on. And, once things kind of started opening up, it has kind of elevated things and escalated things. And I started wrestling for New Texas Pro. I started doing a lot more East Coast shows. I went to Seattle for Without a Cause. I wrestled at Grap House, which is in Las Vegas. Kat has made an appearance. I apologize. We talked about it earlier within 30 seconds. But, I just got really, really lucky that, of course, I got really, really lucky, that to have a working relationship with Game Changer Wrestling throughout the pandemic and to be able to be one of their, I think I've gone from a scramble guy. Now I've, had my individual matches and I'm showing that, not only can I do, technical wrestling or, UWFI style, which in Paradigm Pro, Paradigm Pro is one of those other companies that throughout the pandemic they were running. And, you look at guys that have came out of Paradigm Pro. You have guys like Myron Reed, who's a star in MLW. You have guys like AJ Gray, who was a former Paradigm Pro champion. Now he's, wrestling John Moxley at Spring Break. Like Paradigm Pro has a lot of great talent that, are usually the guys that are coming up and guys and girls. And it's a great company to work for. And I just got very, very lucky to be able to wrestle throughout the pandemic. So I think that kind of attributed to my growth. And I don't know, I just tried to really work hard, especially on Section Pro. They helped out a lot too, for real.
Cole, Jensen picked. We do an indie spotlight, and Jensen picked your match against Oren at the death match as his last week. And I've seen some of your stuff like when I watch like full GCW matches, but this was one that I actively sought out to watch and check out. And I just have to ask, what possesses a man to do a death match?
It's I don't know. Like that's a very good question. Like. Adrenaline junkie, so like I think the danger of that, the unknown of like shit, something could go wrong, you know, can definitely go wrong in those types of matches. But I don't know what possesses somebody. It's just like it's like a light switch. I'm definitely not like the normal person, I don't think. Whether that be, you know, doing death matches or, you know, wrecking cars in the demolition derby or, you know, doing other dumb crazy things like dirt track racing. Like I've always done things that were out of the norm or would get your heartbeat racing, and death matches just happen to be another form of that. Yeah, and scars are cool too. Like, as fucked up as that is, it was like my girlfriend was cleaning up some of my cuts. She's like, "You're gonna have so many more scars." I was like,
"Chicks dig scars." That's from the replacements, right? Chicks dig scars.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if my chick digs it, but like, I mean, she, you know, I think she digs me still. So like, that's cool.
Yeah, you gave yourself one of those right across the chest too.
See, that is like
R.I.P. Adam Bueller. That was one of his staples, and we lost him to cancer. So I just want to shout out Adam Bueller. He was a really fucking good guy. But yeah, that shit was sick. Yeah, crowd loved it.
That's one of those where I'm watching. I'm like, you know, what possesses a man to just do that? And you know, you said it was a tribute, but still, I can't.
It's a tribute, and it was just a feeling in the moment. You know what I mean? It was just like, all right, we're fucking here. You know? Yeah, I don't know. That it was a big match for me. So it was a big moment.
Well, you know, like you mentioned Paradigm Pro, which I love what they do too with the UWFI style stuff, and you know, just kind of diversifying your skill set, right? Like you have like the mixed rules, like work shoot type stuff. You have like traditional wrestling, and then like we have the deathmatch wrestling you're talking about now. And another guy that I've seen kind of recently have a lot of success going all over the place and then going into death matches is Hoodfoot. Like he recently kind of. You both have like dove in head first now into this scene. Like your first death match was gnarly, dude. Like that was like a memorable death match. And Hoodfoot kind of did the same in GCW. And now he's getting booked all over the place for death matches. Do you kind of see yourself doing something similar? Like, do you want to have more of these types of matches, or do you just want to kind of be utility where like anywhere that someone thinks you'd be a good spot, like you're ready to go in any situation?
So I definitely could see myself doing some more death matches. I don't know. I said this before, you know, in conversations with guys like Alex Clone and like, and I don't know if you know this or not, but like it was my first death match in GCW, but I've done death matches as early as 2016, which was my first one was against Reed Bentley in IWA Mid-South. But I've been very, very selective with how many I've done. I think I've done, I would say 10, maybe 12, a couple tournaments, but like I'm not a deathmatch guy. I will be a guy that does death matches. I respect the art too much to consider myself a deathmatch guy, but I'm a guy that whenever I do them, I'm going to go as fucking crazy as I can. Like I'm not going to be one of those guys that, you know, just does it and then wants to brag about doing it. I'm a guy that when I do it, it's because I'm doing it, and it's because I respect the art of the deathmatch wrestlers. So, yeah, you can definitely expect me to do a couple more in the future, maybe in the near future. But when I do them, I will do it out of respect and when it matters most. But I'm a utility guy. I like that too. I'm a guy. Just whatever you need me, I'm that guy. Send me in.
Besides you carving your own chest with the light tube, the other spot that really stood out to me was the chandelier. And I got to know, was there any thoughts of swinging from the chandelier, of just pulling the whole thing down and using it? What's going through your mind as you're setting up the ladder and you see this thing in the way?
Holy shit. Like, it's still at a point where like, afterthought that anytime somebody mentions it, it's like I get that same feeling because it's like in the midst of the match, I'm like, okay, like this is not just another match. Like I could feel it in the moment. I could feel it with the crowd. Like this is something that's could be really, really cool. And I set the ladder up and like I don't know what happened. Like I thought I had a grip on it. And I just look up and I just see the chandelier swing and I'm like, you just see me like look down. I'm like, oh fuck. You're like, oh man. Like I am screwed and I'm sorry I curse a lot, so please
no
forgive me.
worries.
But it's like but I'm literally like, oh my God, like I'm having them like I am trying to prove a point with this match more than anything else. And I'm looking at the chandelier swinging and it's like, if this comes down, I'm fucked. For my career's over. Like I'm gonna be forever known as the guy that broke the fucking chandelier in the showboat. And I'm like, okay. And like it stays out there and I literally look at like I think I looked at a ref, I was like, please help me with this fucking ladder because I'm not about to fucking wreck this. Like I'm not trying to tear it down. I get up there and I've never climbed a ladder and tried to lean so far away from the chandelier in my life. It was just like it just stopped my heartbeat. I was just like, oh shit, like this is probably going to be the end of fucking all my hard work and everything. Like, all right, cool.
Fortunately, the chandelier did not come down. But that
and like obviously this conversation might bring it back up, but like I don't know if what it says, but like it became an afterthought. Like the whole thing, like it could have been like a whole big deal after match. Like, wow, Cole's a real piece of shit. Like it was still mentioned and it still had a GIF on Twitter, but like, like it still wasn't as big of a deal as it probably should have been.
See, I wasn't even thinking of like, oh, this is a big deal. Like he hit the chandelier or anything. I wondered how it was going to like play into the match or anything. I could see you were worried about it. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is great. I'm of course not thinking about, oh yeah, if this comes down, like everything's screwed. The building, they run there all the time. I'm not thinking about that at all.
It would have been probably the worst thing to ever happen. It was just.
Well, in that case, I'm glad that did not happen. But as a fan watching, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
No, it was a heart attack for me. I was like, oh my God, like, don't let this fucking happen. Like this match.
Oh my God, that's too funny.
Up the audio.
Me. Somebody tried to call me. That's okay. On me.
All good. Well, you know, the night before this death match, or invite, you wrestled Billy Starkz, and I thought it was a fantastic match between y'all. And y'all obviously know each other very well. Tell the people listening right now kind of about the big Starkz brand and like what the people involved with that mean to you.
Yeah, so like Billy Starkz is like my little sister, like legitimately. So back in the IWA days, where in probably about 2016, I was wrestling a match against Reed Bentley and somebody posted these photos. I was like, oh, like that's really sweet. Like it was a photo of me giving like a springboard stunner. And I was like, I messaged Nick Maniwal and I said, hey, like who took these photos? Like they're really sick. And he linked me to a guy named Robert Bellamy. And I was like, okay, well, like I hit up the guy. I was like, hey man, like this was a really sick photo. Do you happen to have any more? And he's like, actually, yeah. And he like sent me like 3 or 4. And I was like, hey man, I appreciate that. Next show comes by and he shows up. And he's taking more photos and he sends them straight to me. And I just started chatting with him. And I don't know, I'm not trying to take credit. I don't know if he messaged me or if he directly messaged Maniwal, but like he was like, hey, can I like shoot a couple photos ringside? And Maniwal was like, yeah. And like ended up where he would take photos ringside. And sorry, freaking voicemail. I hate phones. So he ended up basically, you know, working through Ian Rotten and got involved in wrestling that way, basically because I started asking him for the photos that he took. So now I end up going to living in Dayton, and he starts traveling to Dayton, and he starts taking photos for Rockstar Pro, and he's starting to bring along his kid, which is, you know, Billy.
Yep.
Well, Billy's like 13, 14 years old, asking all these wrestlers like, oh, hey, like, how do I get into wrestling? Or like, I want to be a wrestler, and like starts watching these matches at that age, like not watching it as a professional wrestling match, but watching it like in a deeper sense and like trying to learn from everything. And the kid ends up training at like 15 or 16 years old at Grindhouse Pro Wrestling. and ends up now me and her dad, Robert, or Mouse, whatever you want to call him. I call him Robert, but Mouse, now we're traveling to New Jersey for JCW and GCW every weekend, or we're traveling to Supgraphs, or we're traveling to Florida for, Mania weekend, or we're traveling to Iowa. So it's like over the past couple of years, like, all these people that Mouse was taking photos of, and all these people that Billy was taking photos of, because that's how she broke into wrestling, is she started taking photos with her dad. She did promo shots. Like, all these people that they've met have became family to her, family to them, family to us. So that became big Starkz brand. And now you have people like the freaking, Dante Martin and Sky Blue and Lee Moriarty all wearing it on AEW, because like these are all people that, Mouse would give promo photos to, and like, hey, you want to get some shots? Let's get some shots. And like Mouse never charges people. Like, that's something that people don't know, is Mouse hardly, I don't think unless he gets booked, like he doesn't charge anybody for anything. He's like, if he takes an 8x10 photo of you, whether it's in the ring or if it's just in the back, like he will take that photo and you can go make 8x10s or make it off of a shirt. He doesn't care. He cares more about go make your money and go get your name out there, or have something that looks professional. Like, Mouse is a very selfless person, and he'll never put himself over. And I know I'm ranting, but like, this is why people that love the Big Starkz brand and believe in it, do believe in it, is because like Mouse helps out so many people. And his kid is such a good kid. Like, if you've ever met Billy, she's like a sweetheart of a kid. And like, I don't know, they're really good people. And it's a really great brand. And I love being a part of it. It's like a family. But besides putting Robert over, he sucks. He's gonna look at me and message me and call me soft or whatever. But like the brand became a thing because he became such a champion of his kid. So he looked at LeVar Ball and like how Mello is and how all the other Ball brothers are. And he was like, that's my kid. Like, I'm going to champion for my kid. At the end of the day, like my kid is going to be, one of the hardest workers, and Billy is. And so the Big Starkz brand became the Big Baller brand, or vice versa. And that's how it grew. So
yeah, it's awesome to hear you say all this stuff about Mouse and Billy too, because I got to meet Mouse years ago at Glory Pro, just like standing around. We were just kind of next to each other, and he was like taking pictures, and we just started talking. And then I would see him at like SUP in Nashville, and like just start seeing him kind of different places live. And every time he'd be like, my kid just started wrestling. Like every time, like he was so excited. Like, my kid just started wrestling. And then to see like where she is now, just a few years later, like it's so cool seeing all of y'all just like really, really growing in the world of wrestling right now. I mean, it's so cool.
Oh yeah, the kid's going to be a star, or she already is a star, but she's going to make a shit ton of money one day. So Mouse is like, all right, whatever, I'll do all the drives now. Like, she's going to pay for everything later. Like, he's like, I'm going to shoot ringside at WrestleMania or something. So like, yeah, it's really cool to see like especially if it's like I have a show in like Tennessee or New Jersey. He's like, hey, like, who's your ride? I don't know yet, Mouse. I have a crappy car, so I'll probably end up driving myself. He's like, all right, let's go. I'll just meet him in Louisville. So like, yeah, it's really good to see how far, and he'll never give himself credit, like, of how great of a photographer he is. But a guy that takes his late, like, he'll just, if you ever see him shooting ringside, like, sometimes he just holds up the camera and just like clicks it, and it's fucking art. Like, the guy is really naturally good. So it's great to see that his growth as like a photographer from a guy that would just take photos, in the crowd, to like where he is at now. It's pretty sick.
Did you take it easier on Billy because she has a little sister and her dad was right there? Did you?
So like, Billy is, if you've ever met Billy, she's a really nice person, but she's also brutally honest. She gets it from her mother. She will just, if she watches your match and that she didn't like something, she will be like, all right, well, I know you had a great match, but, and like from that, like, me and her have always just been like, when it comes to wrestling, hey, like, this is what I thought. And I don't know much. Like, I'm an idiot naturally, but like, if I see someone like, hey, like, this is something you could have done, or like, we'll tell each other that. Like, we've both been very brutally honest in wrestling to help each other grow, because I think she can see something about me differently than the way I could see something about her wrestling. So yeah, I've never really taken it easy. And then definitely when we wrestle, she hits the piss out of me. So I have to do the same. Like, and it's out of love. She's my little sister, but like, the kid hits hard. Like, anybody that wrestles her, the kid knocks the hell out of you. And like, her parents are like, you better hit her back. Like, Robert tells me every time, like Robert wasn't at the last GCW show, but when he found out that we were wrestling, he literally was like, "You better hit the kid because you know she's gonna hit you." And she hit me like 4 times. I was like, "Ah!" I was like, "All right, damn."
Wow. So I was always curious about this. Like, what's Billy? Does Billy drive herself to these shows when Mouse isn't there, or like, how does she? Because I usually see him with her.
So this last one, it was her mom. So either her mom goes or Mouse goes. Like, it's always one or the other. This last time it was me, her mom, and her boyfriend Marcus. We drove out there and drove back. But it's usually most of the times if it's a GCW weekend, it's usually I go down and meet Mouse in Louisville, and then me, him, Billy, and whoever else. Usually it's Marcus and somebody else, whoever's riding out, will go to Jersey from there or however. Like, that's how usually most of the trips go. But yeah, Billy's usually with one or the other, or is always with one or the other. But she's driving now, so eventually she is going to be driving herself to her own bookings. But Mouse, I don't think Mouse is going to let that happen for a while. He likes being there too much.
I was wondering too, like, because obviously there's big news with Nick Wayne signing with AEW recently, and then my wheels start turning, and I'm like, Marcus Mathers, Billy Starkz, Starboy Charlie, like these literal kids, teenagers that are like so talented. And I was wondering to myself, like, I wonder if Billy winds up in AEW, if that'll be a package deal, and Mouse goes there too.
I mean, at this point, probably, like, it would make sense, right? Just like have Robert there, and he gets unlimited road trip donuts, and he's just back there with like the ice cream cones, just like, oh, that's out of Cole, or like whatever. I could definitely see that. I don't know, like the kids that like anybody that knows Billy knows she's really, really talented and really, really good. So it's like, all right, what's the kid going to do? I think she has unlimited possibilities. I think she definitely wants to go to Japan for a year. I think that's one of her big goals after talking to her, but who knows? You know what I mean? I know Mouse is like, all right, kid, you're the breadwinner. Let's go. Let's go. He's like, this is my retirement package right here. But you know what I mean? Yeah, like you never know. You never know what could happen. But yeah, I think it definitely should be a package deal. At least Mouse can at least take some photos in the back.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they get a great photographer out of it as well. A great wrestler and a great photographer. Two for one deal.
Yeah. I mean, he's an okay photographer, better person, but
can't put him over too much, as you said. He'll see this and he'll call you soft, and then
oh no, he's already going to call me soft. He's really soft. He put me over too much, nerd.
What was it like being in Hammerstein and that whole atmosphere? And then you mentioned GCW was a big part of your career in the pandemic, playing a role in who you are now, and then they make it to Hammerstein and you're part of that. What was that like?
It was pretty surreal. Like the only thing I kept telling myself is there's going to be more people watching this live in person than there are living in my hometown. And like, to me, like that was the craziest thing. I was like, holy shit, like there's more people in this building watching me do something that like not a lot of people didn't believe in me, but like a lot of people were like, that's kind of weird. Like that's going to be your life choices. You're going to be a professional wrestler. So I was like, okay, so like I'm wrestling now in front of more people than the people that were telling me like, don't ever do this. I think that was so surreal. And then like the Radrick or Riot thing started happening where like people were like wanting me to be on the show. And I was like, that's sick. Like, I don't know. Like I'm a very weird person where I think I bother a lot of people just by like existing. And so like, I'm very socially like awkward, I feel. And like, I just think a lot of people don't like me as a person, which again, is just social anxieties and like mental health stuff. But like, it was really cool to see that many people like believe in me and want to see me there. Like it was such a big show, like with other stars, and like to have my own like little thing where people were just like, yo, we want to see this, weirdo from Spencer, Indiana that like always wanted to be a wrestler and everybody thought he was a weird guy for wanting to be a wrestler. Like it was a really cool thing to happen. And like coming out for my entrance and just seeing all like the little like Radrick Riot signs pop up, and it was like 200 of those things. I was like, what the shit is going on? Like it was, I don't know, it was really humbling. It was really, really sick. It was really cool.
Well,
I'm just a dude,
Oh yeah, but dude, you're so much fun to watch, man. Like you're talking about you always wanted to be a wrestler, and, me being such a fan of what you do in the ring, like, who are some of the influences that you'd say kind of like formed your style of wrestling?
I really loved Paul London and Rey Mysterio growing up. I thought those guys were always undersized, but like they were always really, really good. Like London was just so crisp in the ring from a long, long time. But the first ever independent wrestler I ever watched was a guy by the name of JC Bailey, who was a technical wrestler that specialized in death matches. So I take a lot of influence from him because I really want to be a guy that can do both. He leaned more to the deathmatch side of things than he did the technical wrestling. So I'm trying to be like the more of the opposite, where I'm a technical wrestler that like when I do the death matches, like it makes sense. I do it well, hopefully. But guys like that, guys like Speedball Mike Bailey, whenever his first PWG run was like right when I was getting into I want to try to be a wrestler. Like he was such a good martial artist, and his like fluidity of strikes and how he pieced things together and how there was no wasted motion. Like that's something I can admire. And like, I was like, man, like that's really good. Like that's a guy that whenever he wrestles, it's crisp. You know what I mean? You want to watch it because he's that good, and he's only gotten better. Like he's already back in the States and he's fucking killing it. So it's pretty sick.
You mentioned mental health and social anxiety, and I relate a lot to that and feeling like, oh, nobody really wants me here or likes me or anything. And a lot of it, it's all in our head because a lot of people tell us we're great, and we all have friends and everything, and they tell us, hey, you're really good, I really enjoy hanging out with you. And in your own mind, you're just like, no one really wants me. Like, how do you take care of your mental health, I guess? And I know that's maybe a wide-ranging question, but for you,
it's a constant battle, but it's not like a bad thing. Like honestly, it's more than anything, it's keeping a constant upkeep. So a lot of things I'll wake up and I'll just tell myself, I'm grateful for what I'm grateful for. So like I'll just be like, okay, I'm grateful for this and that. And like whenever I get to wrestling shows, and like I'll talk to the people I love, like that I know love me. Like I talk to people that I not care about, like I know care for me. I'll talk to guys like Big Vin or Jordan Oliver or Blake Christian or Alex Zane or Effie, or people that I know like genuinely care about me as a person. It's like, all right, I know no matter what, like these are people that do care and I can go talk to. And it's like, all right, if I need an honest opinion, I know I can go to Jordan Oliver and talk to him about whatever we need to talk about. Like that's one of my guys. And so it's like, those are the things I'm doing to keep myself centered. It's like, all right, like I do have people that care about me. I'm not this weirdo that like talks a lot and like can rant, and like, and I'm sure you guys can tell, like I go on rants. It's just what I do because I just talk and talk and talk. But it's just like, it's cool because like I try to be really grateful for everything I get to do. I'm a really lucky guy. Like I said, I'm a small town redneck from Spencer, Indiana, that definitely should not be, nobody should have ever paid for a plane ticket for me to go wrestle, but it's happened. Somebody literally took time out of their day to buy a $200 plane ticket for me to go do something across, that's 14 hours away to do something that I love. Like that is more than what I ever thought of as a kid. So like everything from that is just, I'm really grateful. And I just want to work hard and, do much more bigger things that way. So hopefully, another small town kid just looks at another redneck like me. It's like, oh, like, it's cool. You can do cool things. So like those are the things that like I try to remind myself, is that I've done way more than I probably should have, and I probably will do, hopefully more cool things. And I'm just going to be the best person I can be while doing that. I try to be a really, positive person. I think it comes off as fake sometimes, but I'm really trying to be, I don't know, a good person.
No, again,
sorry, I rant.
No, you're completely fine. And like and very relating is you try to be positive, but then you think like you're too positive, and it does come off as fake. And like you're right, like it is a battle. And I just wanted to tell you, like, I think everything you have said today, and your rants, which I don't see as rants as all, like all of it comes off across very genuine. And you, not knowing you before this conversation, not even like not knowing you wrestling wise to the level, especially like Jensen has, like I've found this whole conversation like just great. And you're already now like, I like you even more as a wrestler on top of as a person just doing this interview. And I hope other people find that as well. But I think you're a great person on top of being a great wrestler.
I appreciate that. I try my best. I'm not perfect, but I definitely try. I don't know. There's spread and do good is like my life motto. Or like I thought a quote was just like spread and do good. So that's all I try to do. I had some like bad mentors early on in wrestling that definitely didn't help out a lot. And so I'm definitely just trying to be something where it's like, I don't want anybody to ever have a reason to be like, oh, Cole Radrick was like a dick to me because I saw him at a show and he didn't talk to me, or I wanted to say something to him or ask him to watch my match or anything like that. And like, I'm getting to a weird point where like people are asking me to watch their matches and I'm like, I'm nobody, but I will watch it and, we'll see whatever. I don't know. I just want to be good and do good. That's it.
Yeah. Well, it's all super inspiring, man. And, you said that you feel like you've already kind of like accomplished so much and you're grateful for so much. Well, like what else is on kind of your bucket list? What goals do you have? What, you're out there winning championships with Unsanctioned Pro Champ. You got like some dream matches that you really want. You got any companies you haven't worked for that you're really looking forward to maybe, mixing up in soon?
There's a couple things I definitely have on my bucket list. There's a couple matches that are going to be happening Mania weekend that I think are going to be pretty that are bucket list matches. So I don't want to list them off, but I think it'll be pretty. They'll be pretty cool. More than anything, I just want to wrestle more. I'm very lucky to wrestle I wrestle like once, probably. I probably wrestle twice a weekend, every weekend for the past 3-4 months, and then it looks like I'm going to continue to do that. And I love doing that. I just legitimately just want to wrestle more, as much as I can. I want to wrestle. I don't know. I think a big goal this year would be to do something like AEW Dark or something along those lines. But I'm at the point where right now I just want to be. I don't know. It's a weird way to say this because like it sounds like I'm being like a mark or whatever, or a mark for myself. But it's like at the end of the day, like I want to build such a good reputation for myself as an in-ring wrestler by the end of this year, where it's like, oh yeah, Cole Radrick's like one of those guys. Like I want to be. That's where I'm working to. Is I just want to be a clean, established professional wrestler where it's like, all right, well, if Cole Radrick's on the show, like I'm fucking watching this show. Like this is all right. He's like the guy I gotta watch. But yeah, something like AEW Dark or something with Impact or some anything like that, like something with like a TV company was definitely like a goal. Just not even like a contract or anything. It's just like I want to get to that spot and test myself in that environment because like I've always been one of those guys like I rise to the occasion, and it's even if I fail, I'm gonna fail on my fucking sword and I'm gonna try my hardest. You know what I mean? So I think those would be the goals. Definitely got some ideal matches that I want to happen and that may or may not be happening. So just kind of seeing what happens from there.
My last one for you, and nothing to do with wrestling, but what is that picture in the background?
This?
Yes.
So that is a photo of Assembly Hall, which is the IU basketball stadium in Bloomington, Indiana. So it's here. I think I can move the camera a little bit. We can get it's from my uncle. So it's hanging in there, but it's the basketball stadium.
That's what I thought it was. And especially when you mentioned Indiana, and I just wanted to get confirmation. Is that an Ali photo? We're just going to take a core.
We'll just do a tour. So we got an Ali photo. These are Valentine stickers from Jonesy, part of his space, one of his space boxes.
Nice.
So shout out JonesyCollectibles.com. This photo right here is a autographed Mankind photo with Paul Bearer. So what's funny about that is he did a comedy show in Bloomington, Indiana, the night of my very, very first training session, like ever. So not ever, but like, so I trained once when I was 16. I signed like a 4-year contract with like a very local, like shady promoter. That's a whole story in itself. But whenever I like truly started training at New Wave Pro, I went to the comedy show with Mick Foley, and I was like, hey man, like I'm gonna train to be a wrestler. He's like, well, hey man, good luck. And so like I took a photo with him and I got that 8x10. And I was like, all right, sick. Like now I have at least something that's like, all right, this is from my day one of like wrestling training. So that was a cool story about that. I got some Dale Earnhardt stuff, but I don't know if we want the full tour. I got wrestling posters. Yeah, so my living room's a man cave. My girlfriend has like the upstairs loft, but yeah.
Very nice. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm the same kind of way. My living room is just like Minnesota Viking stuff, UFC. I mean, this is my living room. We got like UFC posters in here over my shoulder and stuff. So I respect it, man. I love that kind of stuff.
I got a couple UFC posters I think it's at my dad's, but I'm just like, man, I don't know if I have enough space.
Man, you were just mentioning this, guys. We kind of close up this interview here. You were mentioning, you want to be one of those guys that people look to, and it's like Cole's on the show. I got to watch that show. You're already one of those guys for me, man. And I know I'm not alone. And there's a lot of us out there that are out there that are Ratty Daddy fans, and we want to see you everywhere. And I guess kind of my last question for you. It's a pretty generic question, but it's a question I'm like legitimately interested every time I ask it. As a fan of wrestling yourself, what's your favorite match you've ever watched?
Damn. So I don't know if it's just because that is a historic like not historic, but like just like a special spot. Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, the opening of WrestleMania 21 is such a really, really good, clean, technical match. Like they had obviously the Halloween Havoc match is, it's there. But like besides Mysterio's mask, like going all over the place because like he had like this weird strap system on it. Like it was such a very good technical match, and it was a really. As a kid, I was like, man, this match is so like awesome. Like Rey Mysterio is so cool. He's doing all of his best hits. Like Eddie Guerrero's being freaking Eddie Guerrero. You know what I mean? So like I don't know. Like that's probably like one of my favorite matches. Definitely, Shawn, Ric Flair. I'm sorry, I love you. Perfect ending, super kick. Yeah, man. J.C. Bailey versus Chris Cash from TOD3. That's one of my favorite death matches of all time. So yeah, like those are like the matches where I'm like, oh yeah, like that was really sick. Like I was like growing up, like those three matches were like, all right, these are what I'm gonna watch like all the time. So those were probably the three. And I do want to say, like, I do appreciate you because I know you have been a very, very big fan of mine. You've definitely retweeted a lot of my stuff. Definitely did not know what I did to get such an appreciation from you. So I do appreciate it. Like, I do tell people a lot, like, I do appreciate the love people give out to me. It does mean a lot to me. So I appreciate you, my man. Yeah. Thank you for real.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And it's honestly, it's because I just see how hard you work, man. Like your effort just really, really shows through, and your skill set is it's unique. Like I love the way you mix up your technical wrestling and just how we've used the word kind of utility, but like you really are the utility guy for me. Like there are a few people out there that like when I hear their name, I'm like, this person is going to make the show they're on better no matter what. And you're just one of those guys for me, man. So I'm happy to promote you as much as I can. And I was really happy that we can get you on the show today because I wanted to talk to you for a while, but today, this just wound up working out perfect with you having that GCW deathmatch recently and us talking about you on the show recently. So it's like, we talked about you. Now we get everyone to, they get to hear from you this week. So I really appreciate it as well, man.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk with you guys for real. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things. Like I'm really, really grateful for the position that I'm in and like the journey. And it's pretty sick that I get to talk to somebody that one is like been like a big supporter of me for a while. And like, I'm a big fan of Fightful. So like it's sick in both ways. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
We appreciate you joining us, Cole. When Jensen said, you were down to it, I was excited. Again, I'm not the king of the indies like Jensen is over here. But
well, by the way, I'm not. There are people far, dude. Like when I'll just put it out there. When I am looking for answers, I turn to Dylan Hales. That's kind of like my source of like. If I don't know it, Dylan will know it. So like I don't consider myself like the king of like the indies or whatever. Nothing like that.
Dylan
there are definitely people. Yeah, there are definitely people that I look towards. So that's no way more than me. I appreciate the compliment though, Jeremy. I mean, I know you're just trying to be nice, but
But I was excited for you to come on, especially after talking about you last week with the deathmatch and everything. And I appreciated this interview and how honest you were and all the stories. And we got to get you back on to talk about this 4-year contract that you signed early in your career.
He showed up on my 16th birthday, like legitimately.
Okay, all right. You're welcome back anytime you want, and we're gonna do the 4-year contract story, and we're gonna get to the bottom of all of this. Cole, let the people know where they can find you at.
So it's at Cole Radrick on Twitter, at Cole Radrick on Instagram. Pretty nice, pretty simple. Like, again, you can probably tell, I'm not a genius. So my Twitter at and my Instagram at is very, very simple. Going to have some new merch coming out, so be on the lookout for that. So yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. Shout out Wrestle Nerds for my sick ass t-shirt. They have like these really dope shirts that they just hooked me up with. So go check them out. They're really dope people. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Pretty simple, pretty easy, pretty bland. Sorry.
Again, thank you, Cole, for doing this. We really appreciate it. Guys, we'll be right back in just a second here on the We're back, everyone, on the spotlight. Jensen, we're at about 3 hours right now, but we appreciate Cole Radrick for coming on. We recorded that earlier this week. Again, that was probably my favorite interview that we have done. I thought he was great, and I appreciate you setting that up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I thought it was great as well, and happy to do it. I was happy to have him on, and it sounded like he had a good time doing it, and he's a fan of Fightful, and so yeah, that was awesome. And y'all should go support him. Check out his matches. Really, any of these companies we talked about, whether it be Subgraps or Paradigm Pro or GCW or Unsanctioned, or I mean, geez, he's everywhere. New Texas, all over the place. IWTV, use code Fight Talk, FIGHTTALK, all is one word, no spaces. Use code Fight Talk on independentwrestling.tv and watch a lot of Cole Radrick stuff. So yeah, we're probably wrapping the show up here. That's pretty much all I wanted to plug anyways. You use the promo code and follow me on Twitter at @FightTalk_. Also, this Sunday, Fightful Select Weekender podcast. That's every Sunday, talking the world of professional wrestling. And I'm really looking forward to watching AEW Revolution. I'm getting names mixed up. Impact Sacrifice, AEW.
You had Revolution.
Revolution.
Right?
Okay, right. Now I'm super screwing myself up. AEW Revolution, Impact Sacrifice, UFC, Masvidal.
Sacrifice!
There you go. So yeah. Also, like right after this, me and Joel Pearl are playing Mario Kart for like an hour. So at like 7:30 p.m. Eastern, which is like 15 minutes from now, me and him are playing Mario Kart. If you have a Nintendo Switch, come play with us or just hang out in the chat. And that's twitch.tv/Fightful Gaming. So I'll see y'all here in a few minutes. We'll play for about an hour.
JJ says, thank you for the kind words. Really means a lot. Always happy to support this great platform of Fightful and other shows y'all do. Love you all. JJ, you are the best. We appreciate you and all the support and everything you do for us. Guys, I have nothing to plug. Go and as I said that, I'm going to plug something. Go to FightfulOverbook.com. Check out the different stuff we do. We have shows daily. Just go check it out.
I'll do it for you. Tomorrow I'm on Degrassi Dudes 10 a.m. That is Fightful Overbooked. You can watch Jeremy's part of the interruption style show. What did you wind up
around the horn, pillar to post.
Sorry, around the horn. You're right. Sorry about
that. That was a lot of fun. I do encourage everyone to watch that. We had Righteous Reg, Louis Dangor, SP3, Lily Alexandra, and Connor Casey on that, and we're going to be doing that hopefully bi-weekly. I'm looking to do that. That was a ton of fun. Got a lot of great feedback on that. So I was really happy with that. But go to Fightful Overbook. We had daily content. As Jensen said, he'll be there with SP3 doing Degrassi Dudes tomorrow. I'll be there with SP3 doing Friday Morning Coffee. SP3 just pretty much lives on that channel now. He lives everywhere. Bless that guy. He's another workhorse. But go to FightfulOverbook.com. Check out all the great shows, the great content we have over there. Thank you guys for the support today with everything. It's been a long day. It's going to be a long weekend, but love you guys always supporting us, showing us love. And it does make this fun. As hard as it can be, it does make it very fun. So we'll be back next week with a new episode of Spotlight.